But I think the development of full artificial intelligence would spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
It was a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0,
self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and I'm here with my good friend tonight, Axel Steele, and we would like to say hello to all of you who also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? We're doing what we normally do. We're streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We're broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight, we're taking your phone calls as we discuss on the Joe Rogan podcast recently, something bubbled up. They were talking conspiracies with RFK Jr. They were talking assassinations of his uncle, JFK. Everybody knows this one. But of course, he's asserting that all this stuff is still true. And not only that, he's making the allegation that he himself could be under fire, either theoretically or literally, depending on how you want to take this. But and it got me thinking in a lot of ways. Is this still just modern day folklore? Is this just some conspiracy nonsense behind the JFK assassination and the intelligence community, specifically the CIA, being involved? Or is this maybe something that holds water? And per usual, we're still waiting for the documents. We're still waiting for everything. And it makes, if you got a tinfoil hat at all, it makes your tinfoil tingle. At least it makes my tinfoil tingle a little bit. Because what are they still hiding? It's been an entire lifetime since these documents leaked and all the rest. But anyway, I digress. Before we get into that, of course, we're here with my very good friend, Axel Steele, who is not only the official dungeon master of Troubled Minds for when we role play sometimes and play amazing games. He's also the parapolitical expert of Troubled Minds, and he knows a lot about this stuff. And look, I think you'd have to say this, Axel. Welcome to the show, first off. And then I got one thing to say, and then it's all yours for a minute. What's up, my man? How are you? Oh, actually, I got
always a pleasure, Michael.
No, always a pleasure for you. You. Thanks for being here. What you got real quick? You want to introduce yourself? Talk about your Twitter? What you got?
No, I'm Axel Steele. I'm on here sometimes. Don't follow me on Twitter. I'm at Axel Steele on Twitter if you want to, but don't feel you have to.
There you go. Or feel you have to, because sometimes he's got a hot take on Twitter. So that's what we're doing tonight. So I got a question for you. So regarding this, we're gonna start it this way. If in, let's say, the 21st century, the thing that happened that made everybody a conspiracy theorist is Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. If you rewind back to 1963, I think the event that probably made everybody a conspiracy theorist for an entire, let's say, a human lifetime just about, was the assassination of JFK, because there's so many moving parts, and the CIA involvement, and the Cuba and the mafia. I mean, it's unbelievably dense the way this is. But it seems like, hey, look, can we just get a lifetime, guys, with no actual obvious conspiracy, and maybe the term conspiracy theory would go away? What's your take? And go right ahead on what you got tonight. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine. I would say that, even the term conspiracy theorist basically comes out of the post JFK assassination era. It was basically a term made up by the security services to make people talking about that sound crazy. But of course, it wasn't only JFK. Basically, almost every figurehead from the liberal to left spectrum in the 60s ended up being assassinated under unclear circumstances. You have JFK, you have RFK Jr.'s father, RFK, was killed in 1968. You have, Martin Luther King was assassinated. Many people think the FBI was involved in that. You also have the assassination of Malcolm X, which unfortunately I know very little about. So if anyone wants to ask me questions about Malcolm X's assassination, I will not be any help.
Well, nor will I, because this stuff is very dense. And I think that's part of the idea is, you get all these moving parts conspiracy wise, and then you don't really have a leg to stand on, because there's so much, as always, like I always say with propaganda, you get contradicting information. You get, oh, that's just flat out baloney lies, or it's, they malign it by calling it terrible things, or you're a communist, or you're this, or you're that. Who knows what's really going on with this? And I think that's why even yet, what is this? Let's see, 37 plus 23 is
it'll be the 60th. It'll be the 60th anniversary of the assassination this November.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. 60 years. And we're still talking a conspiracy that really should have been rolled out with a red carpet and put to bed if they would release the necessary documents. But again, if you remember the Trump presidency, he was like, I'm going to do it. And then Pompeo was like, whispering in his ear like Grandma Wormtongue, and he's like, never mind, I'm not going to do it. And then so what the hell's going on with this? And as usual, tinfoil's tingling, and RFK brought this up recently on the Joe Rogan podcast. I got the clip of that. We'll play it in just a sec. But if you want to lay out sort of the notes you got there, you said you have a sort of a prep to kind of get us into the JFK business. If you want to start there, or wherever you want to start, free flow as we do. I
mean, for the JFK assassination, I have a brief little précis of the facts that aren't in dispute for people that either were young when it happened, don't know that much about it, or our various foreign friends who I wouldn't expect to know the details of a presidential assassination. But to let it roll here, Kennedy was shot on November 22nd. Kennedy was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963, while he was in a motorcade visiting Dallas, Texas. Within about 90 seconds, a police officer reached the book depository in question and saw Lee Harvey Oswald on the second floor of said book depository drinking a Coke. They did not arrest Oswald at the time. They weren't sure what was going on. Oswald then left. Oswald's the guy that gets pinned as the assassin. Oswald then left the building, returned to his home, and then left his home and went to a movie theater. At some point between him leaving his home and going to the movie theater, a police officer with the last name of Tippit was killed. This also has been attributed to Oswald, that Oswald shot him. But about 70 minutes after the assassination, Oswald was arrested in the movie theater in Dallas, Texas. He was taken into custody. We don't have a lot of information. He was interrogated. We don't have very much information about what he said during the interrogation because no notes were taken, and it wasn't recorded, even though that was the standard even at the time. There's the famous scene where Oswald is being walked in the police department by a bunch of reporters. Oswald announces that he's a patsy and that he didn't do it. A couple of days later, when Oswald is being moved from the Dallas Police Department to some other, jail facility, he is shot on live television by Jack Ruby. Jack Ruby would claim in his own trial for the murder of Oswald that he did it because he cared about the Kennedys so much he didn't want Kennedy's wife, Jackie, to have to go through, the trauma of having a child a trial for the assassin of her husband. Roughly around then, the Warren Commission was founded, which it was a special presidential commission to investigate the assassination. It spent about 10 months gathering evidence. It came to the conclusion that Oswald acted alone and that President Kennedy was shot. That Oswald acted alone, fired 3 bullets at the motorcade, one that missed, one that inflicted a bunch of injuries on Kennedy and the Secretary of the Navy at the time, who was sitting in front of Kennedy, basically, and then a third shot which hit Kennedy in the head and killed him. While this was going on, Jack Ruby, by all accounts, had a psychotic break in prison and stopped making a lot of sense. Although he would tell people he felt his life was in danger. He really wanted the Warren Commission to take him to Washington, D.C. so he could testify. The Warren Commission told him they couldn't really do that. Eventually, he did testify in front of the Warren Commission. You can find that testimony. It's very rambling. It's not very lucid. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Jack Ruby was put on trial for the murder of Oswald. He was convicted mostly because of a confession he gave when in custody. That conviction was actually thrown out by an appeals court because under Texas law, the confession wasn't admissible. And so he was going to get a new trial in the spring of 1967. These appeal processes take a while. That was 4 years after the assassination. However, luckily for everyone, he died of an embolism before the retrial could happen. And so a lot of these facts were never really litigated. Moving forward a little bit, you have in 1976, there was a separate congressional investigation into the assassination. It was called the House Select Committee on Assassinations. It came to the conclusion that there was more than one shooter due to acoustic evidence that they had gained, and that therefore it was a conspiracy, although they explicitly ruled out it being a conspiracy within elements of the American government. And yeah, so that's basically what I got. I just wanted to lay out sort of the framework of what happened and what the government conclusions have been.
Very well done. And so obviously nothing suspicious here. We got, again, the patsy says, hey, I'm a patsy, murdered on live television by somebody who appears to be, maybe not immediately, but shortly thereafter, not of a good state of mind, which some suggest he was MK Ultra'd or damaged in prison somehow. And then, of course, as you said, ended up dead. Dead men tell no tales. And then, of course, everything is just cleaned up nice and neatly. And the reason we're talking about this tonight is because it's back. It's back in the news cycle for a very particular reason. Again, RFK Jr., that's Bobby Kennedy Jr., he just brought up on the Joe Rogan podcast last week that he says, well, just hear it in his own words. This is what he said, and this is why we're talking about this tonight. Hang tight, Axel. You'll get echo if you say anything. It'll just be a super short clip. This is what RFK Jr. said on the Joe Rogan podcast. Listen to this.
If you're talking about your uncle who's assassinated and you believe the intelligence agencies were a part of that, what happens to you?
Well, I got to be careful. I mean, I'm aware of that, and I'm not, I'm aware of that danger, and I don't live in fear of it, at all. But I'm not stupid about it, and I take precautions.
Yes, indeed. Take precautions. Now, look, he's still suggesting, again, hinting heavily that he's got eyes on him, that these intelligence agencies and the deepest conspiracy of the deep state, ballsy enough to assassinate a president, is also now looking at him because, well, he's of the level of JFK, and not to make fun of him entirely, because he is a Kennedy, and their money is a dirty money that came from prohibition, breaking the law. But I mean, hey, who cares about that stuff, right? Once you're rich, and it's all fine. Somebody serves some time, legitimizes the fortune, and then everybody's a politician, and then you own the country. Super weird, right? Anything to add to that? Did it surprise you, Axel, when this clip hit? I know you listened to or read the transcript at least of this entire thing, and it was a bunch of vaccine stuff that got a ton of press as well. But did it surprise you that he brought up the fact that he still thinks, and maybe it's a family secret? I'm just adding that as just sort of an idea here. Did it surprise you anyway? Go ahead.
It didn't surprise me, mostly because I'm familiar enough with RFK Jr. I know he's been saying that for years. He, for example, so his own father was assassinated. His own father, Robert Kennedy, was the front runner in the Democratic primary in the 1968 elections. And he was assassinated in after giving, either before or after giving a speech in a hotel in Los Angeles. I can't remember which one. Officially by a man by the name of Sirhan Sirhan, who remains in a Californian prison. He was very young when he committed the assassination, according to what people say. But RFK Jr. has been on the record for years that he didn't think Sirhan Sirhan was the guy that killed his father. He's been saying for a long time he thinks the CIA was involved. He's on the record saying, the first thing his father did who was John F. Kennedy's attorney general at the time, that the first thing his father did upon learning about his brother's death was, called the CIA and tried to grill them and see if they were involved in it. So it wasn't surprising to me because he's been on this for a couple decades now.
Yeah, but now he's running for president. Do you think that's something that the president, let's say a president to be, at least in his wildest dreams, should be saying sort of on a pre-campaign trail? That's why it surprised me. I was like, yeah, I can see, kind of going after the vaccine stuff and the lockdowns, at least in the terms of like, being a contrarian and saying, look, if I was there, everything would have been perfect because I've got hindsight and it's 2020. I get that, right? Because it's easy to do when you're like, running for president. You can just cite all the mistakes and say, if I was there, none of that would have happened. Well, I mean, everybody can say that. So I wasn't too impressed with that type of stuff. And again, we're not talking about vaccines tonight. So cool your jets on that, please, because I don't want to get us taken off of YouTube. Yeah, cool your jets on that stuff. We're talking about the JFK stuff. And so when he's bringing this up now, it did make me raise an eyebrow because he is getting some attention in, let's say, political circles as a possible contender against Joe Biden. And I'm like, come on now, you don't just bump an incumbent unless they take him out come on now, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, so what's going on with this? Do you think that this is whatever else you got? I don't know. I don't have any smart questions to ask other than
I can fill in a little bit. The story has always been, I'm not sure how true it is, but the story has always been that his father, Robert Kennedy, always suspected the CIA, and that JFK's wife, that was the same for her, and that the plan was, because Robert didn't really talk about it that much when he was running for president in 1968. And the story has always been that was because he was waiting till he became president to look into it and find out what happened. Of course, he was taken out by an assassin, so that never came to be. I want to make one quick note about RFK Jr.'s voice. Guys, don't make fun of him. He has a degenerative muscle condition that causes his voice to sound like that. It's not an affectation or something. He has a problem.
Oops. Yeah, well said. And we talked about this that one night when we were sort of setting this show up, just kind of kicking back that soccer ball back and forth. It is, and the comment I did make, and I think this is relevant to his presidency to be, is I don't think he sounds very presidential. And like I said, not at no fault of his own. It's just very difficult to kind of have that type of voice and be, I don't know, say the voice of a generation type of thing. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't have a crystal ball, but the weird part here is now this is where this gets spicy. Do you think he's actually in danger, Axel, of some deep state plot that if he says let's say the right thing at the wrong time, do you think that maybe they'll come get him? And that's what's on my mind tonight, guys. So before you answer that, the questions for you guys are the same questions here. So what do you know about the JFK stuff? Do you think there is an actual living conspiracy here that's been covered up for 60 years? Do you think this is real? Number two, do you think that RFK Jr., who's now, again, he was on the Joe Rogan podcast getting a ton of press, do you think he's actually in danger of being assassinated by a deep state agent, let's say? And then the third question is, we'll get into some other weird stuff tonight, because do you think that this type of thing, it's been described as some sort of ritual killing in terms of JFK and sort of that conspiracy, the 33rd parallel and things like this, the killing of the king? There's a bunch of really bizarre things that kind of fit with this or don't. And that's really the question. What do you think about this? What do you know about it? Go ahead, Axel, on any of those. And you're the best. Go right ahead. Oh,
no, I had a thought in my head and now it's gone. Hold on. I remember what I was going to say. It's no, I don't, Mike. What was the first question you asked me? I'm sorry.
That's okay. The most pertinent question here is: do you think that RFK Jr. is actually in some kind of danger from the deep state?
Well, I do remember what I was going to say. His son is married to a CIA analyst, and she, by all accounts, is active on his campaign. So if they do want to take him out, if I can give a spicy take, I don't think they're going to have to go very far to find someone.
Ooh, there's your super spicy take. Well, I mean, with the surveillance state the way it is now, I think it doesn't matter too much because, who knows what kind of real nefarious stuff they've got, cooked up by DARPA. Yeah, go ahead.
He has said publicly as he must, obviously, that his daughter-in-law is a good person and that not all CIA people are bad. But I'm just saying the CIA married someone off to his son, so I have a feeling they're keeping tabs on him.
Come on now, you don't just sell people like that, Axel. Come on, you don't buy them and sell them to families for spyware purposes. This doesn't work, does it? Is this still a thing?
Definitely doesn't happen.
No, it definitely doesn't happen. Yeah, at least not in this country. But so that's where we're at tonight. Lots of stuff here to consider, lots of things to think about and talk about. Got lots of reasons why RFK Jr. actually believes this stuff. And so the thing that really kind of tickles my brain in this instance is, I wonder if they know something within the Kennedy family, something specifically that's a secret so deep that they can't say it. Like smoking gun evidence type of stuff that if they say it, terrible things start happening to them and people around them. And that's where I'm like, okay, so is this guy, again, off the rails? I don't really know, because who really knows what kind of dirty family secrets when you're, part of the Kennedy family actually exist. But then if this guy is not off the rails, then maybe he's definitely onto something. And that's what kind of creeps me out a little bit, that we live in a world whereby it doesn't matter who you are or how much money you have. Something could go wrong at any given moment if you say the wrong thing. Thought there, we got about 2 minutes left.
Yeah, I mean, if the Kennedys do know something that they've never gone public with, I mean, I'd be willing to believe it. I'd certainly be willing. They have their suspicions, but I'm someone who's been kind of looking into this for a while now, and I've never heard any hints that they do know something that they're really keeping a secret from the rest of the world. Of course, if they are keeping the secret, why would we know about it? I suppose. I mean, so that's possible. My guess is probably not, because I mean, why wouldn't RFK Jr. say it at this point? He's running for president. He's an older man. I mean, I think that if he really had some smoking evidence, he might as well lay it out. So I have some doubts about that, but I do know that the Kennedy clan in general has always been very suspicious about the two assassinations. It wasn't just the United States. I mean, there were assassination attempts on other world leaders. There were successful assassinations on other world leaders. And a lot of those had ties to American intelligence. I mean, we can talk about Castro. I mean, the CIA couldn't stop trying to assassinate Castro. We also could talk about Charles de Gaulle in France. There was a right-wing movement of people that were upset about his withdrawal from Algeria, that were based out of paratroopers in the military that tried to assassinate him multiple times. And so the idea that elements of the security services would try and take out a leader wasn't that unusual. I mean, it was happening all across the world. We could talk about Diem in Vietnam, where he was deposed and killed by a right-wing cadre of generals that thought with him out of the way, they would get more support from the United States, for example, during the Kennedy administration. I mean, just wasn't that unusual thing to have happened.
Yeah, that's when the CIA was off the chain, or at least they weren't able to contain it from becoming very public. And so that's the question again: how deep does this JFK conspiracy go? Question number one. Question number two: do you think RFK Jr. actually has a case here describing possibly a family secret that they know about that hasn't come to light yet? Number three: do you think that if RFK Jr. says something a little bit off the beaten path, he's also at risk of disappearing? Love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. We're here with my good friend Axel Steele taking your calls. What do you know about this? Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're here tonight with my good friend Axel Steele, and we're streaming on Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, of course. We're taking your phone calls as we discuss RFK Jr. Of course, his father was assassinated, his uncle was assassinated, and probably the most famous assassination, or infamous, shall I say, in history. The actual assassination of a modern sitting president. Now, how deep and dark does this conspiracy get? We're still talking about this nearly 60 years later, and again, it's been invoked by the Joe Rogan podcast and the fact that RFK Jr. is actually running for president. Now, what does that mean? I don't know, and that's why I think it's critical for us to think about these things and wonder if he's actually in danger, and that's what's on my mind tonight, and I hope that's what's on your mind as well, because that's what we're talking about. Love to hear your thoughts. We're streaming in all those places, reading your chat, and trying to incorporate your ideas into the show as we go. It is the most interactive radio show in the known multiverse, and taking your calls at 702-957-1037, and you can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Easy as that. Let's go back to Axel Steele, and we got a couple calls after that. Anything to add to this madness of where we're at and what we're talking about before we get into some calls here?
I mean, calls are fine. Over the break, you were talking about someone in the comments saying that Jack Ruby was MK Ultra'd while in prison. There is a story behind that. If someone wants to ask me about it, or if you want me to talk about it now, I can, or we can wait on it.
Sure. Go ahead and tease that a little bit. Don't give the full details, and then we'll get to that as we go. But what was the short version of that?
The short version is that he had a psychotic break while he was in prison, and it was after meeting with a rather famous psychiatrist whose name shows up a lot for some reason. But after he had his psychotic break, he was diagnosed by a different psychiatrist, and that psychiatrist literally did say, this is not speculation, that psychiatrist did say, he seems to have gone insane. The only thing I could think of that might cause this is like a pharmaceutical-induced psychosis, but obviously that's impossible because nobody could have drugged him while he was here in jail. Now, you might think that psychiatrist was putting some words there on. Obviously, that's impossible.
Nice. You don't know the name of that guy? Can you dig that up as we do this? I would appreciate that very much.
I don't know the game. I don't know the name of the second guy, but I do know the name of the first guy.
Okay, what's that name?
Julian West, a famous Californian psychology professor. He was the guy that killed an elephant with LSD. It also turned out after his death, we learned that he was working for the CIA all throughout the 60s and 70s and 80s forever, and was actively involved in MK Ultra stuff. But people did not know that at the time. That only got discovered about like 10 years ago, that he was a CIA asset the entire time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Exactly.
Also interviewed Timothy McVeigh.
Did he really?
When they were both in the same military base where he was being held before his trial after his arrest.
Yeah, there's no coincidences here. I sorry, I didn't mean to say that. No conspiracies here. Everything's just a coincidence, of course, because that's the way the world works. All the same weird doctors and all the same weird plots, but just a bunch of coincidence, if you ask me.
He was also at Waco, Texas. Really,
the same guy? Is he still alive?
Yeah, no, like I said, he died, I think, in the early aughts. And the only reason why, there's this guy named Tim O'Neill who wrote this book, Chaos, about Charles Manson. It's a really good book. But what happened was after Jolly West's death, Tim O'Neill approached I can't remember which California university it was. I think it's UCLA at Berkeley. But he approached the university and was like, can I get access to his papers? Because Mr. West had left all his papers to the university. And they gave him access to it. And Dr. West, in his personal papers, maybe I don't remember what killed him. Maybe it was sudden, but he didn't take out any of the CIA stuff. So once Tim O'Neill had access to his personal papers, it was totally obvious he'd been working for the CIA the entire time. And so we only learned that after he died. And I think he died like in 2002, something like that.
Gotcha. Okay. So a lot of us, let's say spidery tendrils tracing from a modern conspiracy, let's say Waco, all the way back to JFK. And that's a long time. That's an entire lifetime, basically, of conspiracy to be involved in. What do you guys know about this? Again, how relevant is this still? Do you think RFK Jr. has a case here? Do you think he's really in danger? Is this just some sort of invoking like an ancient tale to garner public, let's say, public affection in a modern time? What do you think? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. I'm Michael Strange. We're here with Axel Steele. Let's go to Matthew in Colorado. What's up, my man? I think you were first. You're on Troubled Minds. How are you? And go right ahead.
Well, I'm doing well, my friend. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, when I researched some or got exposed to the JFK conspiracy, one of the things I heard that really piqued my interest was this whole thing about the money system. And there was a guy named Jim Marrs with 2 R's, Marrs in his last name, who wrote a whole book about this. And part of it is based on JFK signed an executive order. The executive order is 11110. So anybody can look that up, Google it. And he signed that on June 4th in 1963. And it had to do with taking the Federal Reserve notes that they were printing, like the $5 notes, off of the silver standard. And I actually have like a really cool old $5 bill it's a silver certificate. So back then they were silver certificates. Like back in the day, you could have money you could take to the Federal Reserve, take it in, and they would have to give you gold. And then we went off the gold standard. But this was later, and this was happening with silver. So he signed this executive order that was disallowing the Federal Reserve to do these silver certificates. And then part of the story goes to he was turning it over to the Treasury Department, okay, because the Federal Reserve's a, private corporation, quasi weird thing that nobody understands, involved with the federal government, but it's a private banking institution that prints and mints our money. But apparently what JFK, according to Marrs and other people, was trying to do was to rein in the power of the Federal Reserve and to turn it over to the Treasury, which is actually part of the government. So like if you take out, any paper money today, on the one side it's signed by the Secretary of the Treasury, on the other side it's, Federal Reserve. At the top says Federal Reserve note. But if you take out these old $5 bills, it says, silver certificate, $5. Well, apparently, so he was trying to rein in the Federal Reserve and turn over the control of the money system back over to the actual U.S. government and the Treasury Department. And he had actually called for the printing of $5 bills that were silver-backed certificates by the U.S. Treasury Department, and they had printed them, and there was a train load full of these. I think it was in Florida, and then that was like the exact week he was assassinated. And so there's this other interesting aspect to the conspiracy theory about his assassination that it might have to tie into. He kind of took on the Federal Reserve, in the banking system, and was trying to do something like that. And maybe that's why they opted. But he was probably up to some other things that the powers that be didn't like. And
Yeah, real quick, let's talk about that real fast. Yeah. So make a note in what you got next. So regarding that, there's a couple main theories, and one is, of course, the taking down the central bank, which, as you know, is a no-no. You're not allowed to do that. Which the Federal Reserve is actually not a federal institution; it's owned by private families, et cetera, so on. And so that's a whole other thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is very well entwined with this. But then the other thing, since this is a conspiracy show, some people have said, maybe flippantly, I don't know if there's any evidence to suggest that Kennedy was also involved in the extraterrestrial bit, and he was about to disclose some information as well as part of this. I don't know if that's true whatsoever. It is a rumor, and like I said, I don't like to really deal in rumors unless I'm the one making them up and telling you that I made it up, because then it's not a rumor, it's just a theory and a conversation. But I don't know. I don't know how that fits into this. Axel, what do you got regarding anything Matt said or anything I said? Go right ahead, sir.
I mean, I only know a little bit about the move away from silver convertibility. What I do know about it is that so the way silver certificates worked is that your money was worth not a certain price in silver. Like, you didn't turn $5 in for $5 in silver. It converted to a certain amount of silver, and for a long, like, $5 was 1 ounce of silver or whatever it was. And for a long time, it wasn't a problem because the price of silver in the market was much lower than the face value of the money. So while you could go to the bank and you could go to the Federal Reserve and you get silver for your cash, the amount of silver you got would not be worth the amount of money you gave them. And so it wasn't a problem. But in the 60s, industrial uses of silver started to get more serious. And so the silver price got above the face value of the money. And so people were going to the Federal Reserve and asking for silver because that silver was worth more than the money they were turning in. And so it basically wiped out the government's silver reserves, or it was going to. And that's why they stopped letting people do it, basically. I just know the economic reason behind the policy. I'm not so sure it was like Kennedy's idea or something like that. I mean, in the alternative, what would have happened is all the government silver would have just gotten used up, and then there wouldn't have been any more silver to hand out, I suppose. But so I only know that much about it.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. Go ahead, Matthew. What else you got?
Well, yeah, and that continues today. Like, if you buy a 1 ounce gold coin today, that's an American golden eagle, it has printed on it that the face value is $50. You know, when gold's like worth $1,200 an ounce. So an ounce of silver, if you want to, the government says it's worth $50. So they kept up with that tradition. But my other comment, Axel, do you know anything about this? That I've heard this recently, that, you know, I guess there were supposed to be all these documents released, and they released a whole bunch of documents about the Kennedy stuff. But then apparently there was like 7,000 pages that were unreleased, that they filed a federal lawsuit to get these pages released. What do you know about that?
Well, after the JFK movie that Oliver Stone made in the early 90s, which is basically based on the Garrison trial of Clay Shaw. Sorry. This guy named Jim Garrison was the DA of New Orleans, and he charged Clay Shaw with a conspiracy to assassinate the president in, I think, the late 60s. And that story is basically what the movie JFK is based on. And after the JFK movie, Congress passed something called the JFK Records Act, which was they should declassify all the documents. It has a rolling period to do it. But within that act, there are reasons why you can't declassify documents. Like, there's still exceptions. And who knows if they're following it in good faith or not? How could we know? I do think, though, that one of the reasons why they are not declassifying some of the documents is that some of the people involved that are still alive, I can think of one person in particular, were probably active CIA agents, and the documents would reveal that. And as long as they're alive, they're not going to release documents saying a living person was a CIA agent. And that is I know that's one of the exceptions under the act. Like, if it's going to out covert sources, they don't have to release it.
Yeah, well, you know, the government all the time, whether it's UFO documents or whatever, when they get FOIA requests and etc., they redact the names of the people involved. That's easy enough to do. I'm not buying that as an excuse. But so I think that this is something that I heard that it's going on like this year, like in the last 6 months of this year. There's a lawsuit to release these documents and pages, like 7,000 of which that they haven't released. And I think they can redact stuff, and I don't see any logical reason why they can't.
The person I'm thinking of specifically, it would be very hard to redact the information she gave without revealing who she is.
Okay.
So I could talk about who she is if people want me to, but I think there is one person that's still alive that was very closely involved with Lee Harvey Oswald that almost certainly was a CIA asset, and I don't think they're willing to reveal it. I mean, they probably aren't going to reveal it after she dies, but as long as she's alive, they're not going to reveal it.
Right.
Yeah, that makes some sense. We got Daryl behind you, so we got to cut. What's your final thought, Matthew? Do you think RFK Jr. is actually in danger here running for president, or do you think that's just a way to whoop up some interest?
Well, it might be. I mean, if you look at some family history there, and you got two people in his family history that have been assassinated, that's not looking too good for him. Right?
Odds are, so you can look at it both ways. So odds are we have a situation where 1 and 2 and 3, you don't want to be number 3, but you got a family history of this. But then also maybe you don't, because maybe it's all been worked out in the cosmic scheme of things, because 2 have happened in your family, which means you're not due for another billion years. I don't know. Depends on how you want to look at it.
Right. What I was thinking was, if RFK went down, then it's just like, oh, no. That just makes the biggest conspiracy ever. So it's like they can't do that. That would just be too much, so he's probably safe. But hey, I appreciate you guys. And I just want to out Axel a little bit, just so everybody knows he does have a background in law. And that's all I'm going to say.
Well, thank you, Matt, for calling in.
Thank you, Matt, for calling in. Appreciate it very much. You're the best, brother. That's Matthew in Colorado, good friend of mine, good friend of the show. You know where to find him. Links in the description, troubledminds.org/friends. Give him a follow. He's written several books. Check him out. Let's do it. We're still talking. Again, RFK Jr. said recently on the Joe Rogan podcast, which really brought this conversation up. Okay. And that's why I'm talking about this. That's why we're talking about this. Now, again, 2 assassinations within the Kennedy family, JFK, the most famous, then his brother, of course, RFK Sr. Now we've got RFK Jr. running for president, and again, it might be just a symbolic thing to gain some traction. I don't really know if he's serious or really thinks he can, become the president in this next cycle. I don't think it makes any sense whatsoever. But who am I to know anything about any of this stuff? Because I'm just a knucklehead on the internet with a microphone. What do you think? Is he in danger? He invoked I got to be careful about what I say and what I do, and I'll play the clip again in the next hour just so we can reframe. But let's do it. Let's go to Daryl in New York. What's up, my friend? You're on Troubled Minds. You're on with Mike and Axel. How are you? And go right ahead.
Hi, Michael. Hi, Axel. What a great subject. I'm so glad you're talking about him. I'm very, very fond of RFK Jr. I don't know if you know. And I think he's got a chance, actually. I think people are really fed up with what's been going on, and he's doing pretty good, He's doing pretty good in whatever polls that are maybe not going to be released on the mainstream media, but I was very concerned about him, that there would be a bullet with his name on it. And I think there's a bullet with Trump's name on it. There's probably a bullet for Obama as well, but it's up to him whether it gets, I don't know, it depends. I think he is in danger. I would be very fearful that history would repeat itself, especially with the Kennedy legacy, I think, you look at the conspiracies. I have a list of some of the list of who's perhaps killed by conspiracy. John Lennon, maybe, maybe that was an MK Ultra thing. I don't know. Even Prince, Michael Jackson, people that are outspoken about peace, peacemakers. Martin Luther King. Anyway, one thing I wanted to say is there's enough money and power that, with an honest president, what would the country be like, with an honest government? He wants people to tell the truth. He wants people to stop lying to us,
Yeah.
He wants the government to stop lying.
Hold on, just give me one sec. And I agree with you 100% there. But what would an honest president look like? Is it allowed? So hold your thought real quick. Matthew in Colorado, your camera's on. I don't know if you know it's on. So just to let you know before you show us some unflattering look at your nether regions or something. I turned that off. Anyway, go ahead, Daryl. just there was nothing on there that was. It was like the ceiling or whatever. I just wanted to let him know because I didn't seem like he knew. Go right ahead. Sorry about that.
Where was I? No, but I believe he's an honest man. He's done a lot. He was fighting for our environment. He got the Hudson River cleaned up. I mean, he's accomplished a lot. Yeah, we couldn't even swim in it, let alone eat fish out of it. It was totally polluted, and he cleaned it up. He got them to stop dumping their crap into the Hudson River, and it's a clean river now. With the fresh. Well, who knows today? I don't know. So you think so? Okay, so what kind of weight do you think still this JFK assassination carries? You think that there's still like a rogue CIA or a rogue deep state that's doing this type of stuff, or at least threatening this type of stuff if somebody says the wrong thing at the wrong time? And question number one, go ahead and answer that. And of course, we're going to take that into RFK Jr. afterward. And but what do you think? You think there's still some sort of rogue element happening out there? I think it gets carried on from, I don't know, who gets chosen to work for these people and, where they come from and what industries they come from. There's a revolving door, it seems, between, our government and big tech. And, maybe this has been going on for generations. Is it by invitation only? I don't know. I think, there was talks about Lyndon Johnson really wanted to be president. And he knew about this, and his girlfriend spoke out before her death. And he had told her there was a party the night before he was shot. He goes, "Well, we're not going to have to worry about those Kennedys anymore." He said to her the night before. So apparently, he was definitely influential in this. And then the pictures of George Bush Sr. and he was in the CIA. He was there. Even there were so many shooters. I think there were multiple shooters, and Lee Harvey Oswald definitely wasn't one of them. There's a picture of him downstairs during, he wasn't even in that book depository when it happened. It had pictures of him. There's pictures of George. I don't know. So conspiracy theory, conspiracy fact. The difference between a conspiracy and the truth. It's about 6 months or 50 years, I don't know.
Yes, let's say 60 or 75 years in this case. Axel, anything for Daryl while we got her on? We got a few minutes left, but let's get Axel in here. What you got?
Right, sure. Well, first of all, Daryl, it's lovely to hear from you again. It's been a long time since we spoke, and I hope you're doing well.
You too, and so happy you're on the show tonight. You're so full of information. It's excellent.
I do think that RFK Jr. wouldn't be running if he doesn't think he has a chance. I mean, I think he has a chance. I think the way he's moderating some of his foreign policy views indicates that. And the other thing I wanted to say is that, Mike, we did miss a beat. We could have waited a while and done this as the 60th anniversary of the assassination show.
We'll do it again. That's November, man. That's like damn near what? That's like a lifetime away at this point.
9 months away. Yeah.
yeah. We'll do it. We'll do it then too. Why not? Who knows? Maybe he's still he hasn't bowed out as his presidential bid, and maybe he said more stuff. So maybe we'll do it then.
Sorry, I wanted to say one more thing. I will say, Daryl, that a policeman saw Oswald in the building like 90 seconds after the assassination took place on the second floor. There's
yeah, okay.
Well, he was there with one of the building supervisors, and so by all accounts, that does come into why my thought that I don't think Oswald was. If there was a shooter in the book depository, of which I have my doubts, I don't think Oswald was it, and the fact that he was on the second floor instead of the sixth floor so quickly after the event, attested by a police officer and a supervisor, is one of the reasons why I think it was unlikely he was the shooter. So I was, I just wanted to say that.
It looks like he was so set up. He was, first of all, didn't he defect to Russia? And then they changed his mind, and then he came back, and they brought him back, and they said, "Oh, we got a job for you," blah blah blah. And he's like, "Okay, cool," And then he thinks everything's going to, be okay, like they said it would. And then boom, he's suddenly under arrest for this thing, and total setup. I mean, it looks like a total setup.
And the Cuban embassy?
He was expendable,
Yeah. Yeah, like he's literally like the perfect textbook definition of patsy. Like he was even groomed to be a patsy. It's so wild.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I mean, it's so
about a minute left, Daryl. Go ahead.
Okay, I think I'm pretty much done. I want to hear what Axel has to say, but it looks very deliberate. You know, the planning of it looks very intentional, and you know, there was even other, apparently, like the whistleblowers are talking that there was other shooters in other areas in case they missed, you know, these sharpshooters, but they didn't have to, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, God.
If someone wants me to get into the details of Oswald, I could. I will agree. I mean, there's always a question of, the big question has always been, was Oswald working for the CIA?
Right.
Or was he working for the FBI? I mean, was he a fake defector? Was he a fake defector to Russia? I mean, the Soviets thought he was. Like the Soviets didn't believe the story. They thought he was a double agent.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
Hey, folks, we're out of time. Hang tight, Daryl. If you want to add a little bit more after the break, you're welcome to. Stay right there. Please mute up. We got Robert on the phone. We got Daryl here. We're here with my good friend Axel Steele as well. We're talking this JFK stuff. Again, nearly 60 years in, this is still a conspiracy. What the hell's happening with this? Love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. Be right back. More on the way. We are talking about the alien abduction phenomenon. Aliens.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing that. And through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are random images as they traverse neurons in the brain.
We got, all right, so maybe
and they also feel them planting or receiving memories or ideas or images.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're here with my good friend tonight, Axel Steele. And hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. We are streaming, of course, in all the places you would expect. YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We're broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And tonight we're talking about the JFK assassination. It's back in the news. RFK Jr., whose father was assassinated, came out last week on the Joe Rogan podcast to reiterate his thoughts and ideas that his uncle and his father were assassinated by deep state agents, the CIA, the FBI, however you want to frame it, or even rogue elements therein. Now, as usual, I don't have answers for you. I wish I had legitimate, solid, perfect answers, but I think the way the world is anymore, I think that becomes more and more difficult. And so we talk about these things instead. So what do you know about the JFK assassination? What do you know about the curse of the Kennedys, and not just RFK Sr. and that assassination? And again, as Axel stated, we'll get to him in just a sec. Maybe this is related to the idea of Martin Luther King Jr. and, of course, Malcolm X. And I mean, there's a whole lot of really weird stuff that went down around the same sort of period, the 10 years or so, 10, 12 years. So what is this? Does this mean something? Does this not mean something? As usual, look, no answers from me, just more questions. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Give us a call, get in here and we'll talk about them. But I want to bring up one thing real quick from I've got my shout out Mama Strange. Mama Strange is here. And I was talking to her just real quick during the break, and she said, and shout out Jason as well. They were like, hey, ask Axel about John. Ask him about like the third step in the Kennedy curse, which is, of course, JFK Jr.'s son and that plane crash. So we can add that to the list here of possibly that Kennedy curse, that maybe there was some shenanigans there. Who knows? Like I said, no answers from me. But what do you know about it? And let's get back to Axel Steele. And you don't have to address that immediately, or if you want to, go right ahead. What's on your mind, my friend?
I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know much about the conspiracy theories around JFK Jr.'s son. I know he died in a small plane crash. That's pretty much the extent of it. I mean, small plane crash deaths aren't unusual, but they're also not unusual for dissident politicians or people investigating certain things. And so I can certainly see why it would seem suspicious. But I'm afraid, Mama Strange, I just don't know too much about the circumstances around his death.
Fair enough. Thank you for addressing that. And yeah, it was one of those ones I'd actually completely forgot about. And so anyway, it's part of the reason why they call the Kennedy thing, the Kennedy family, the curse. But what else do you have to add there regarding what Daryl was saying, or anybody else, Axel, to add to this? We're going to get to that sort of that 33rd degree stuff, and maybe this death is a ritual. I know it's a little silly to me too, because again, either you believe rituals are real or you don't. Right. It's usually not like a ish sort of thing. And so I like to consider both options. You know me. I like to consider that maybe even if the powers that be, let's say, go back to the Rohan thing, the superposition of magic, if the powers that be actually believe this stuff, that magic is true and these rituals make things happen or change, even if it's not real, they're still sort of doing this. And that's still creepy AF. So we'll get to that as we go. So whatever you got as far as where we're in right now, you can talk about Sirhan or MK Ultra. Or, we can go any direction you want. Go right ahead, sir.
I mean, I guess since Daryl brought up, I'd like to circle back around to RFK Jr. as a candidate. I know I said before, I mean, he does seem to be serious about it. I mean, a majority of Democrats don't even really want Biden as the candidate. So I think he feels he has a chance. I mean, do I think he has much of a chance of winning the primary? No, I think it's very hard. I can't think of an example of a primary challenger unseating an incumbent and being the nominee instead of the incumbent. So, but you don't make that kind of play and put this much effort into it if you don't think you at least have a chance of doing it. I guess that's what I would say about it.
Fair enough. And I don't like to point the bone at anybody, but what if something happens? We do have a very, very old president. Something happens with his health. Again, I'm not wishing that on anybody, including Joe Biden. I'm just saying maybe
they'll nominate Hillary Clinton. I'll tell you what they'll do. They'll nominate Hillary Clinton.
Oh, dear God. Let's hope that's not the case. Okay. Anyway. All right. Well, we're not talking politics tonight, just sort of hip shooting. What do you guys know about this again, the JFK assassination, and it's been reinvoked in the modern day a week ago by RFK Jr. speaking about on the Joe Rogan podcast. Let me play this clip real quick, and then we'll go to the Robert on the phone. Hang tight, my friend. He's got a hot take for us as well. Listen to this. This is exactly what RFK Jr. said about a week ago on the Joe Rogan podcast. And this is literally, you can just take one sentence or two sentences and turn it into an entire conversation, because there's a ton here. Listen to what he said.
If you're talking about your uncle who's assassinated and you believe the intelligence agencies were a part of that, what happens to you?
Well, I got to be careful. I mean, I'm aware of that, and I'm not, I'm aware of that danger. And, I don't live in fear of it, at all. But I'm not stupid about it, and I take precautions.
Yeah, take precautions. And so, again, he's fully suggesting, he's got eyeballs on him, and if he does the right thing at the wrong time or vice versa, that they could come get him. And so that's why this is an important conversation. Do you think that the rogue CIA of the past, the J. Edgar Hoover FBI, still exists in some capacity of not just a ridiculous amount of extortion, but also the power of the gun? You think there's a rogue element there at play? Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Anything real quick, Axel, before we go to Robert on the phone?
No, I'm ready. I'm ready to hear from Robert.
Let's do it. All right, let's do it. We got the Robert. Robert in Pennsylvania. You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, my friend? Welcome back. Go right ahead.
Okay. I probably have close to an encyclopedic knowledge of all this, all these facts and assertions involving the John F. Kennedy assassination as Axel. Right? I mean, I followed this thing and read so much of it over the years. There was a famous journalist named Dorothy Kilgallen. I know Axel probably knows who I'm talking about here.
I do.
She used to be on What's My Line. All right. Anyway, she was a dogged reporter, and she went down there, and she's one of the few journalists, if not the only journalist, that actually got an interview with Ruby. Okay, and she had made it clear, in the last week of her life, that she had got the goods, and she was going to release that. She had all these manuscripts, these notes and things. She died mysteriously in a bed that she didn't normally sleep in her apartment. They said it was I think a barbiturate overdose or something like that. There's a lot of suspicion that it may have been something that was set up. Anyway, all of her papers all that work that she did, all those notes and manuscripts that she had in her apartment vanished out of thin air, right? And there's a lot of people who think that she was assassinated as well. Also, on Robert Kennedy's assassination, Stephen Smith, who was the brother-in-law of Robert Kennedy, wrote a very good book on Robert Kennedy's life, and also included, of course, in there the assassination. And he came to an interesting conclusion. A picture speaks 1,000 words. And if you look at a picture, that famous picture of Robert Kennedy lying on the pantry floor, if you look above his right shoulder, you'll see a clip-on tie there. All right, and Smith has put across the idea that Bobby Kennedy was not killed by his Sirhan Sirhan was shooting wildly. The bullet that killed Robert Kennedy came from behind. It was just below his right ear. That's the one that did all that put him in his grave. Anyway, when Kennedy pivoted, when that bullet went through his ear, went below his ear, he pivoted and grabbed the throat of his bodyguard. But he was losing his strength, and as he was collapsing down, he pulled that clip-on tie off of that bodyguard, and that bodyguard was never part of security ever before that night. All right, he just got slipped in there, and then he pretty much went into exile on some island in the Caribbean. He just died a few years ago, but a lot of people think that that's really what happened to him. Is that Sirhan Sirhan was going to be the fall guy, but this guy was going to make sure that that the deed was done. And it's interesting that to this day, Sirhan Sirhan says he has no memory of any of this.
Yeah, that's the classic MK Ultra situation of this, and Back that was literally right smack dab in the middle of all that stuff going down, all those experiments, the clandestine stuff, and again, a lot of those documents have been buried or burned or both. And so, what the hell actually happened? What's your take on that, Axel?
I will say that I more or less back up what Robert's been saying. I mean, these are stories I've heard too. The bodyguard they normally try to pin the death of Robert Kennedy on in sort of the conspiracy literature. It's a guy whose first name is Caesar. I can't remember his last name, but he himself, he would kind of like moonlight as private security. So, the Secret Service didn't get really professional until after the Reagan shooting by John Hinckley Jr. And so before that, a lot of times when they were protecting primary front runners, important politicians, they would hire private help. And so I can't remember Caesar's last name, but he was a guy that was part of RFK's security detail that day, and he had been working for Lockheed Martin. Outside of that, he was someone that was like plugged in to the military industrial complex, and by all accounts was like an arch sort of reactionary. So it makes sense why people want to pin it on him. But as Robert was saying, I mean, I didn't bring this up, but yeah, the thing is, on RFK showed that the bullet that killed him came from just a few inches behind his ear, and Sirhan was shooting him from the front. So when you listen from a distance of several feet, and when you listen to the official story, they say, well, he must have turned his head, or the forensics must have been wrong. And if I can really quickly digress about forensics, this also talks about Epstein. One of the problems with one of the problems with forensics and stuff like that in general is that when a medical examiner is evaluating a cause of death, they kind of have to deal with the facts they're given. So if you look at like Jeffrey Epstein is a good example. He, the official story is he hung himself in his jail cell. Well, there were aspects of his body's condition that weren't consistent with a suicide. But if you ask the medical examiner what happened, and everyone is telling the medical examiner no one else was in the room with him when he died, what other conclusion can that guy come to than it was a suicide? No one else was in there. Likewise, if the official story is there was only one guy with a gun shooting, well, what other conclusion can they come to than the guy that everyone says was the only one shooting was the guy that killed him, even if the physical evidence doesn't really match up with it?
Axel.
Yes.
Can I get your opinion on one other element in that shooting in the pantry?
Sure.
Sirhan had what I understood to be a bullet, a gun that only held 8 cartridges, 8 bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but when they fanned around and gathered evidence, there was something like a total of 13 shots are supposedly actually fired.
I mean,
I'm sure you're aware of that particular thing.
The official story is there was only 8 shots, but there is this whole thing where people think there were bullets in the doorway in front of. So there were bullets in the doorway behind Sirhan, and the LAPD quickly took all those boards down and stashed them away, and no one ever really got to examine them. That part's fact. Whether or not there were bullets in them is not. But the fact that they tore that stuff down and took it away, no one got to examine them. That's facts. There's the people arguing that Sirhan did it always have a 2-pronged argument, where argument 1 is there were only 8 bullets, and when you're like, no, there were more bullets, there were bullets behind him, they're like, well, maybe RFK's bodyguards tried to shoot at him and missed, even though none of the witnesses in the kitchen said they saw any other gunshots except from the ones that Sirhan was doing. But I know what you're talking about. I will say here, all of my information.
Well, if I was in that crowd, all right, that's where I'd be looking too, because there's the guy who's facing Kennedy shooting a gun. I wouldn't be able to. It'd be unlikely for me to be distracted by somebody else shooting. That would be where I would be focusing all my attention.
Well, that's what you would do if you were using him as a dummy, as a patsy, wouldn't it be? But I would say that most of my information about that shooting comes from this woman by the name of Lisa Peace's book, A Lie Too Big to Kill. She has theories I don't think are particularly sound. She's of the opinion that Sirhan was only firing blanks and that none of the bullets came from him, which, well, I have some doubts about that. But the other thing I wanted to bring up with you, Robert, did you hear about the second set of notes of Dorothy Killigan's book?
I've read a couple of books, a really good one called Kilgallen. I forget the name of the author. All right. I may have, but I kind of probably forgot.
Well, I mean, even so, Robert, for the audience. She interviewed Jack Ruby, and she was writing a book up about that, and she was saying she was going to get into who actually killed Kennedy. That's all true. She gave a draft of her books to her friend Florence Smith, who died 2 days after she did of an embolism. That will keep coming up here, guys, if we get into it too much. Who died 2 days after Dorothy of an embolism, and that second copy of notes was also never found.
I did not know that part of the story. I did not know that she gave it to a friend, and that friend conveniently died 2 days after Dorothy Kilgallen. I did not know that, but I will. I will certainly want to learn some more about that. So I'll do some research.
To our audience friends, that's not speculation. Florence Smith did die 2 days later, and she did give her a copy of the notes. So this isn't. If I'm speculating, I'll tell you when I'm speculating, or hopefully it'll be obvious.
No, I don't think you're speculating. But you're giving me information I'm not aware of. So I want to take what you've told me and told the audience, and dig into it myself to see what I'd like to know about that fully.
Amen. Well said. This is why we do this long form talk shows. It's good to talk to each other and learn things we didn't learn. What else you got for us, Robert? We got a couple minutes left yet, and go right ahead. Do you think that RFK Jr. is actually in danger here?
Oh, of course. All right, but you see, here's the difference. That would be so obvious. That would raise such a. Take for example, if they would have if they would have terminated Trump in his presidency, there would have been, the whole nation would have been in an uproar. All right. I think that the coincidences have got too much, with John Kennedy and Robert Kennedy. If something happened to RFK Jr., all right, that was the least bit suspicious, I think that everything would unravel. Now, I think they're going to let him alone, but what they're going to do is try to character assassinate him, and they're doing that through the press right now, trying to character assassinate and make him look like some kind of loony, and that's how they're going to try to do it. As far as his ability to win the election, all right, the Democratic Party does not have to, even if he wins the primaries, the Democratic Party doesn't have to honor those primaries. Democratic Party went to court over what they did with the Hillary campaign did to Bernie Sanders. They went to court on that, and the court ruled that they don't have they don't have to obey their own bylaws. So Kennedy can win the primaries, and they can still say, well, no, we're going to pick this one. We don't want him because he's nuts. All right? I don't think that's. I think that. Before it's all said and done, I really do believe it's going to come down between Trump and RFK Jr. And I do believe RFK Jr. is going to survive. All right?
I'm into this.
I don't think they would dare. I don't think they would dare try it a third time.
Fourth time, if you count John.
Well, I don't. John was a bit reckless. All right. I mean. He wasn't the most experienced pilot, and he was a bit reckless. I think that really was an accident. That he just messed up.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there as a provocateur for the moment. Sorry.
But let's remember when Obama was running for president, What was it? I'm sure Axel knows this. What was it? It was up in the plane, and something came flying out of the back of the plane. All right, and it almost caused it to crash. Do you know what I'm talking about, Axel?
That. No, I'm afraid not. I will say
there
some
was
people
an
think
incident there with Obama's plane, and I can't remember what that. It's kind of like something slid out of the back, and it put the plane in danger, but they managed to get control of it. And I've often wondered if that was something that was set up too. I could get a link to that later. I'll put that up. I'll find it and I'll put it up on the Rockfin chat line. I'm going to get off the air because I'm sure there's been plenty of people who want to talk about this. By the way, I was 10 years old when John F. Kennedy was killed, and I remember going up to the apartment above us. We had friends up at the apartment above us to watch us on their TV. And one of the things I remember the most is that friend of the family who rented that apartment, he was very upset. I remember him complaining, "Who the hell's he to cause wrestling to be canceled? Studio wrestling to be canceled." Never forget that night. Holy moly. Okay, I'm getting off. Thanks a lot.
You're the
Thanks,
best.
Axel.
That's the Robert in Pennsylvania. Axel, you got 20 seconds. Anything to wrap that? We'll come back with more, but quick thought? No pressure. All right, mute up. We'll be right back. We're talking the shadow of JFK, this full circle conspiracy, because of course RFK Jr. just came out on the he's maintained this thought for a long time. This is not brand new, but it's coming into, let's say, the zeitgeist again because he's running for president. And so he's bringing up the fact that his uncle JFK was assassinated. His father was assassinated. We're talking about John and the curse of the Kennedys and everything else. You think there's something here or not? Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight, we're talking about the shadow of JFK, this full circle conspiracy. Now, look, just a week ago, we had RFK Jr. saying he may be in danger because he's running for president. All right? He acknowledged that he believes his uncle, JFK, was actually assassinated by intelligence agencies. Now, look, I don't have answers here. Answers are easy. They're the devil's road as far as I'm concerned in terms of propaganda and all the rest of this stuff, because you can, if you can just tell people, hey, I've got all the answers, you can manipulate the hell out of people. And I don't like that. And so, look, if you want to go somewhere else and soak up answers, easy answers from everybody out there, I get it. Okay, I get it. But I just don't deal in that. I deal in questions and ideas. And does this make any sense? Sort of, again, 60 years on in November is when this actual assassination happened. And so it's interesting in round numbers and all the rest of this. Is there something to it? And that's what I want to know. And the best part of these long-form conversations is that we get to talk to each other and teach each other things that maybe other people hadn't heard or hadn't learned. Or, again, I'm the ultimate noob when it comes to this stuff. Like I said, all my esoteric knowledge comes from Dungeons and Dragons, which you could do far worse than that. But I mean, I'm still just a giant noob in these games, or let's say, and I say games because RPGs, but this is not role playing. This is real life. So we're talking conspiracy in this sense. And what does that even mean? You tell me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. And what do you think about the JFK stuff? What do you think about RFK? What do you think about the RFK Jr.? What do you think about John and the plane crash? Is this the curse of the Kennedys, as they say, or is it something else? Axel Steele, welcome back to Troubled Minds. How you doing, my friend? You feeling good? You're looking good, I'll tell you that. But are you feeling good?
I'm feeling all right. I just wanted to thank Robert for calling in. He was quite informed on the issues, and so it gave me a chance to get into the weeds with some of this stuff. So I appreciate that.
The weeds is good, man. What kind of other weeds you got that you think that we should hear? This is the point of these conversations. You know it. Is that what do you know that you think people should hear in the periphery of this JFK, RFK Jr., or any of the Kennedy stuff? What do you think people should know that you've read that might have hold some water here?
If you ask me, I guess what I would say, the one thing I think that hasn't been officially confirmed, but there's a lot of evidence for, is the fact that Lee Harvey Oswald was almost certainly a CIA asset. I think that people have alleged that ever since it happened. I think it's basically true. He's got a very suspicious timeline in a lot of ways. I mean, he worked on the U-2 program when he was a radar operator in Japan in the Marines. He mysteriously learned Russian over a period of about 2 months, and then he defected to Russia. The Soviets thought he was an intelligence asset. They never. He defected to Russia. He claimed he defected to Russia, saying that he was going to give the Soviets secrets about the U-2 program. Now, they never believed him, and they never asked for the secrets. They always assumed he was a double agent. So they sort of, when he defected to Russia for 2 years, they kind of stuck him in the middle of nowhere in Minsk. They gave him a job at like a factory that made electronic parts. I think they were making like radio toys or something. But they never believed he was a real defector. And then when he was in Russia, he married Marina Oswald, who was the daughter of a higher up in the federal police in Russia, not the KGB, that's their foreign intelligence department, but the NKVD, the equivalent of our FBI. And when he came back to the United States, she came with him. There's always been tons of questions about, did they saddle him up with a Soviet intelligence agent as far as some very complicated triple agent play or something?
That doesn't surprise me. I'm sure that happens all the time. There's actually recent stories about that type of stuff happening in let's say the DC area, and they say that the area of Washington DC is probably the most saturated per capita with actual spies in the world. So sometimes you maybe you go down and order like a sandwich or something, and somebody makes your sandwich, and you're like, hey, thanks. They might be a spy.
There was the whole thing a while back where David Petraeus was giving all this classified information to someone that was writing a biography of him, and it turns out she was like clearly a foreign agent. So yeah, it happens.
This stuff is totally real. Yeah. Okay. So I agree with you. Like I'm not, I obviously don't know as much about this stuff as you do. You've read a ton on JFK and the rest, but to me, it seems clear and obvious to me that Oswald at some point was an asset of the CIA. And I think the weird part in my mind is, so who was basically pulling the strings of the puppet, right? Like this was like smack dab in the MK Ultra period. Again, we talked about Jack Ruby as possibly being MK Ultra in prison, this type of stuff. So I wonder what kind of actual like Manchurian Candidate type asset stuff they would have and maybe pulled off as this situation. And once again, very neatly, everybody involved just ends up dead. Dead men tell no tales. And so how do you reconcile that and just be like, no, there's an official explanation? And that's what always makes my tinfoil hat tingle when I talk about this stuff.
I mean, if you listen to certain popular conspiracy podcasts that I will not name that do not have a good take on Oswald, what they will tell you is that, Oswald was this loser. He was this dum-dum. Nobody liked him. He flirted with communism, but didn't really like it. And then for some reason got it into his head to murder the president because the president conveniently was going to be taking a motorcade right by his place of work, which for the record is a job he only got 1 month before the assassination.
Oh, it seems fine.
It doesn't seem suspicious at all, does it?
No, not at all.
Just he just woke up on October 15th. It was a little over 1 month. He just happened to wake up on October 15th, and he got a job with this book depository. And then he learned a couple weeks later, oh, the president's going to be driving by my house. Well, thank God earlier this year, I ordered a rifle under an assumed name, and now I have a chance to use it.
And I'm a crack shot.
Yeah. Everything.
Yeah.
Everything's coming up Millhouse, as they say, I suppose. Simpsons reference, but still.
Still. Okay. All right. So let's, so what else do you, again, so I'm going to lean on you a little bit here, but if you don't, we can go super full woo. Cause this is Troubled Minds.
I mean,
go super full woo.
I mean, if you want me to vamp, I can talk endlessly about any particular thing you want to ask me about.
No. I got tons of stuff I can ask you, but I want to ask you specifically, do you have anything to add? Maybe we save the third hour for full woo, because I want to talk about that 33rd parallel stuff. I want to talk about possibly the ritual. I know that's not your deal for the most part, but here's what we'll do. We'll invoke Dungeon Master Axel for the third hour, and let's say you're the Dungeon Master in 1963, and full magic is in play, and then we'll just go full speculation mode. You okay with that?
That's fine.
Okay, all right. So the full third hour will be Dungeons and Dragons style 1963 real world. But what else do you think we need? Sorry, go ahead.
Give us all your ridiculous theories, people. Come on,
there you go. Let's hear them. Bring the ridiculous theories. Hey Ben, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. We're trying to expose the cosmos by amazing theories.
I mean ridiculous in a nice way, guys. Bring your theories in. I love to hear them.
Of course. The Dungeon Master has to take them all. But okay, so what else do you think we need to know? What do you guys believe about this, by the way? Again, this is back in the news, and we're talking about this specifically not because of the 60th anniversary. We'll probably talk about it maybe a week before then, because we're always ahead of everybody. Maybe hopefully have Axel back at that point as well. Hopefully maybe RFK Jr. is still in the presidential primary and actually still running for president. But we got the 60th anniversary of this coming up in November of the actual JFK assassination. But what do you know about this? Again, number one, is there something to see here? Or what do you actually subscribe to the lone shooter hypothesis, the theory, the official story is kind of the point there. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess... Well, you tell me. I don't want to do a like an artificial poll in my head and say that this many people probably believe this and this many people probably believe that. Why don't you call me and tell me what you believe, and we'll do that instead. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Go ahead, Axel. What you got?
Oh, I was going to say, I will say famously, basically no. So when the Warren Commission came out with the report, I think only something like 25% of the population bought it. Most people thought there was a conspiracy. And even today, it's a majority of the population that thinks it was a conspiracy, although the numbers are lower now. My guess is just because it's more out of the minds of people and, maybe other reasons. If you were asking me just for interesting things about Oswald, I would say one of the weirdest things about him, and something the Warren Commission spent a bunch of time trying to track down, is how did he learn how to speak Russian? Because when he was stationed in Japan, he had a few I always intermingle Soviet and Russian, which I really shouldn't. He had a few Soviet records that he would listen to, but by all accounts did not know the language at all. And then when he got back to the United States, he had a couple of months of leave backed up. And so when he showed up to his new post in California, he could speak Russian. He was reading Russian language newspapers. And he took the Air Force proficiency test for Russian speaking. Now, he did not pass it. Sorry. It was it's a 5-point scale. You had to get a 4 or a 5 to pass, and he got a 3. So he didn't pass the proficiency test, but that doesn't mean he couldn't speak and read Russian. He was pretty good at it. And the Warren Commission was concerned about this because they were like, well, how the heck did he learn how to do that? And they even, looked into, did he go to one of the Army's intensive language training schools, maybe under an assumed name or under a covert project or something? But the Warren Commission never turned anything up. And so that is one of the great Oswald mysteries. How did he learn how to speak and read Russian in 2 months in 1959? I mean, these days you could look on the internet. We have access to language training tools, but back then you really didn't.
Now we have apps and stuff. You can create yourself a new language in 3 weeks with was it Babel, we're told, or whatever. I still think that's nonsense. But I mean, you have to be awfully dedicated. But hey, look, I don't discount anybody if you're awfully dedicated. A lot of amazing things can happen in the human realm of possibilities. So maybe, but way back then, I think you're completely right. Just randomly speaking Russian is a little sketchy.
I remember reading an article years ago that was trying to defend it by saying that maybe Oswald just happened to be a language savant. He just happened to be one of those people who pick up languages really quickly, and he never did it again. He only did it this one time for Russian, and no one ever noticed. I thought that article was pretty unconvincing.
Oh, you mean propaganda still exists? Yes, indeed. It sure does. Okay, so regarding now, you said you had a theory. So when we were first sort of concocting this idea of do the JFK show, let me make sure. Hold on, I got a little popping, crackling. I think we're okay. Okay, let me know if that's still happening, guys. I'll reset the audio in a sec. But anyway, if you can hear it, let me know. If I'm just hearing it, do you hear popping, crackling, Axel?
It's fine for me, but when I re-listen to these things on YouTube, I always sound worse than I do here. So maybe I'm popping and crackling as possible. I'm just using my earbuds.
No, you're fine. Yeah, you sound great. That's because Discord is super boosted, and we get like 384K audio. It's super hot audio feed. Okay, so the question here, the most wild thing to me regarding all this stuff is who pulled this off? At what point is it? So again, we're talking the CIA, we're talking the mafia, we're talking some sort of combination of maybe like a rogue breakaway civilization, like we're always talking about in terms of like the alien theory and stuff like this. I mean, and then of course we have possibly maybe like the Soviets pulled this off, or I mean through Cuba, or I mean there's so many like you take 5 or 6 theories and suddenly they all seem plausible in the moment. But it seems more plausible to me that some of these elements were working together to actually make this happen. And so I guess doing like a whodunit, 60 years later, what is the most obvious, in your opinion, take here of who had the most, let's say, leverage, the most interest, and gained the most out of this happening, out of all those elements, or anything I might have missed there?
Well, you know what? I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to circle around it a little bit. But what I will say is that in the moment when the assassination happened, it was clear that there were elements within the government that were pushing to see it as either a Soviet or a Cuban conspiracy. That Oswald, he was a legitimate defector. He had come back to the United States as a Soviet agent, and that he killed the president. And I'm sorry, Mike. I need literally 1 second here.
I got you, buddy. What do you guys think? We're talking about the shadow of JFK. Hey, take a breath. I got you. We're talking about the shadow of JFK, this full circle conspiracy. And what do you think about this? As usual, this is a conversation between not just Axel and I. Glad to have Axel here tonight. But you, what do you know about this? Again, I know we have a varied audience. Some people are young enough to actually have not been alive when this happened, including myself, and sort of heard this stuff, second, third, fourth, fifth hand type things and through propaganda sources and whatnot. But we do have a varied audience. And then in terms of like Robert called, he said he was 10 years old when this happened. And so we have a very, very wide age gap here, which is amazing. And I love that. What do you guys know about this? Where were you when JFK was assassinated? And what did you think then? And anyway, go ahead, sir. Bought you some time.
Oh, sorry. I just had to cough very loudly, and I wanted to mute myself. There were people at the time that thought it was, that wanted it to be Soviet related because they wanted to invade Cuba. I mean, maybe they still wanted a war with the Soviet Union. You have to remember that in the early 60s, ICBMs didn't exist, or the Soviets were not as advanced as we were with nuclear technology. And so there was an idea that we could do a first strike on them and we could wipe them out. And there were, elements of the U.S. government that wanted to do that. But what I would say is that, I mean, come on, it was Allen Dulles in the CIA. That's who did it. I mean, I think that's what most people that look into this very closely think. Allen Dulles was the He worked for the OSS, the pre-CIA organization. He was the first head of the CIA. He was a member of this very high-end New York law firm that still exists. And he was fired by Kennedy after the Bay of Pigs fiasco. But even though that was true, he still was doing private meetings with lots of high-up CIA officials. It was like the unofficial, official CIA place. He was still kind of in charge of it. And he was a man on the Warren Commission. In fact, he was the main man on the Warren Commission because unlike everyone else, he didn't have a real job. So he could be there 24/7. So that is normally who the parapolitics guys pin the conspiracy on.
Seems to track. Seems fine. Seems completely fine. Yeah. I don't know. This one to me, I really hate the thought that our government has the capacity and the ability to pull off something like this. But I think if you pay close enough attention to modern propaganda, I think, some of the psyops that are happening, some of just the ridiculous stuff, like you said, nice job on the psyops guys. Like if you're a discerning mind and you read enough stuff, you can spot it instantly. And so what does that mean then? Because of course they had control over that, Project Mockingbird media, the Operation Mockingbird and the rest of that stuff. So with a very limited media spectrum, and now we have social media. So you get knuckleheads like us on the internet, and which they hate. They hate it, Axel. They hate us talking about this because it's just pointing out the plot holes in all the nonsense they've been trying to tell us for forever almost. I mean, as far as they've been running the joint, right?
I mean, now we get even more paid bots by intelligence agencies talking to us on Twitter. It's wonderful. I love it.
Oh, I love it. Agreed. If you guys are on Twitter, give us a follow. Actually, at Axel Steele, give Axel a follow if you're on Twitter.
Don't follow me.
No, don't follow him. don't follow me. What else you got? We got a few minutes left here, but okay. So before we get into like full Dungeons and Dragons mode, looking to hear from you guys as well. What do you think about this? Is this, again, I know it's 60 years later. Many of us aren't that old, and I don't mean that in a good way, in a bad way. I mean in a respectful way, because I think we all have knowledge we can learn from each other. It doesn't matter how old you are. Just think about things, talk about things, and that's what this has always been about. Give us a call, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Come join us. And the only rule is don't be a douchebag. Look, you can have your opinion, and that's fine. Just don't come screaming at people and telling them they're wrong about everything and you have all the answers. Because if you're not floating and glowing, personally, I'm like, nah, you don't have all the answers. Anyway, go ahead, Axel.
I mean, it'd be kind of cool if we got a real Warren Report defender on. That'd be nice. Come on, someone that believes in the official story, or someone that believes that Oswald was KGB and it was a Soviet conspiracy that they covered up so we didn't have to go to war. Bring it on.
That seems solid. That seems pretty solid. Oh, by the way, I meant to ask you. So I never really got to it because I'm a Rambleosaurus Rex sometimes. But when we were putting this show together, I started to mention it. You had a theory. You're like, Mike, I just want to go on and I want to tell people my theory and have everybody yell at me. Are you still into telling us your theory about what actually happened? If you're not, that's okay. That's okay. I understand. That was a different conversation, private, etc. I wanted to prompt it in case you wanted to share it.
You know what? Let's save that for the 60th anniversary show. In the 60th anniversary show, I will tell you what I think happened on November 23rd, 1963. I do have an opinion about what I think actually went down, but I'll keep it to myself for now. Unless someone wants to call in and ask me about it, and then I'll talk about it. But otherwise, I think I'll keep it to myself. We can talk about JFK's astrological chart. I did look into that. I have my own theories about it.
Nice. Okay. All right. Nice. I sent you the links on that, and you probably looked at it before I even sent you those links. So this is the thing. All right. So we're going to get to this now. We're going to go full third hour, which means, of course, completely off the rails because that's what we do in the third hour. But here's the question, right? As this becomes a thing, everybody knows that there are some facts here. John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963 in November. Period. Okay. Period. There's no refuting that. There's some weird stuff too. What about the autopsy in his brain and some other stuff? We can talk about that when we come back as well. But here's the weird part, right? Those are the facts. Facts. But then there's a whole lot of speculation, not just in terms of conspiracy theory, but in terms of ritual. Now, do you think that, let's say on, like we were talking a little bit last night about sort of the ley line grids and, this type of stuff and maybe magic and the solstice, this type of business, do you think that something like this was actually concocted as a ritual to alter future reality from the moment that JFK was assassinated. Okay. For some, and again, like I said, I'm not sure how much of that I believe, but I'm interested in the theories there because some have suggested in the past, and we talked about this sort of thing quite a lot, as you know, magic and ritual and the elites. And does it quite matter, shout out Rohan, whether the magic is real in this ritualistic sort of public assassination as a timeline change sort of thing, or if they believe it is and they're still doing nefarious things to sort of bring that end about, even if it's not real. Those two things are terrifying to me because it doesn't much matter if you got like the people in power actually doing spells and rituals in public, very much like the Super Bowl or all this other stuff that, you know, that everybody else talks about except us. We just kind of in the periphery of that. But anyway, a quick take on that, Axel, just before we go full dungeon master in the third hour, what's your skeptical take on that before we peel off? We got about a minute and a half.
I'd say I do agree that at some level it doesn't matter if, you know, magic works or not, or that's a bad way to put it. Actually, there's always the you know who Alan Moore is, Michael, famous comics creator, and I'm saying that rhetorically, but he wrote Watchmen. But he's a self-declared magician, and you know, there's the idea of magic as contact with the supernatural, it's invoking actual supernatural forces. But there's also the idea of magic as just using words and signs to manipulate people. And obviously, in the second sense, magic's true. You know, there's advertising, there's propaganda. I mean, if marketing is magic, then I believe in it, I guess is what I would say. But if the people there are people that do rituals and stuff like that, are they really calling upon supernatural forces, or are they just deluding themselves? I agree with you that maybe a lot of times there's not that much of a difference, and you know, maybe it doesn't really matter which of the two things is actually happening.
Yeah, that's the Rohan take, and I kind of agree. It almost doesn't matter, because if the powers that be believe this stuff, I was about to say nonsense because again, I'm not the arbiter of the universal truth, but let's call it nonsense for the moment as a thought experiment and say that magic is real, or let's say it's not. Let's say it's not actually. Let's go with the not right now. But say that the powers that be believe it is, and they're doing this type of stuff. Doesn't matter much, because seriously ridiculous, nefarious stuff is happening anyway as a result of it, because they believe it, and they're the ones in power with all the money and all the resources, and you know, like dare I say, on the dark web, you know, knocking somebody off is incredibly cheap. I mean, hey, it's weird. It's a weird, wild world we live in. We're still talking about this. Axel, thank you so much for peeling out time and spending it with us tonight. We got another hour coming up. We're talking about the shadow of JFK, this whole full circle conspiracy. RFK Jr. says he may be in danger running for president. He says he may be, well, being watched. Do you think this is all real? Do you think this is all paranoia? Do you think it's all marketing? Do you think it's somewhere in between? Love to hear your thoughts. We're about to get magic. And looks like we got Derek the Night Stalker coming up as well. Love to hear your thoughts.
Yes.
702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Stranger. We're here with Axel Steele. Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. We are talking about the alien abduction phenomenon.
The aliens are looking through your eyes, and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing fantastic. And through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are random images as they traverse neurons in the brain.
So all right. So maybe
and they also feel them planting or receiving memories or ideas or images.
secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We're broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight we're here with my good friend Axel Steele. Not only is he the official dungeon master of Troubled Minds, he's also the official parapolitics expert. And tonight we're talking about the JFK assassination. Now, why? You're like, hey, why, Mike? This is 59 and a half years later. Why are we talking about this? I'll tell you why. Because RFK Jr. came out last week on the Joe Rogan podcast and reiterated his notion that he's in danger. He thinks that maybe he's being watched. He hinted heavily that the CIA is not just responsible for murdering his uncle, possibly his father, possibly was that his cousin, John. I don't know. Like I said, depending on how deep these things you want to go on the conspiracies, who really knows? As usual, look, coincidences happen, don't they? I think that's for sure. But also conspiracies happen. And so it's our job as citizens of the world to think about these things, to consider what we know and what sort of propaganda is sort of spilling out and how to parse this data. I don't know. I don't have the answers here, but I think it's important that we do keep this on the top of mind, even though it is almost 60 years old in the JFK assassination. Because look, the probably... dare I say, the preponderance of evidence, I know that's a legal term, suggests, or at least in the zeitgeist, that the CIA was involved in some capacity. And so what does that mean? What does that mean for the past? What does that mean for the future? What does that mean for RFK Jr.? What does that mean for modern politics? And of course, the world we live in. That's what we're talking about tonight. Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We're here with my good friend Axel, and we'll get to Night Stalker in a sec. Axel, what you got regarding that? We're about to go full dungeon master mode on this and go magic style on the 33rd parallel. What you got regarding any of this so far? Go ahead, sir.
Well, once again, always a pleasure to be here. I was looking at the YouTube comments when we were on break, and someone was bringing up Bush Sr., George H. Walker Bush. What was he up to? Because he was in the Dallas area the time of the assassination. In fact, there were 3 future presidents in Dallas at the time of the assassination. There, of course, was LBJ, who would ascend to the presidency after JFK's death. Richard Nixon was there at a meeting with Coca-Cola. Now, no records or minutes of that meeting were kept, and some people are unclear if it ever happened. But Richard Nixon was in Dallas, and there was George H. Walker Bush. I will say, though, by all accounts, he was roughly 20 minutes away from downtown Dallas, giving a speech to a Rotary Club, basically. It's even kind of hilarious because, after the assassination happened, he almost immediately called the FBI to say that maybe he had information about the assassination, but he wasn't quite sure what, blah, blah, blah. It seemed like he was calling in to be like, I wasn't there when it happened. I was 20 minutes away. And also in Barbara Bush's autobiography, there's a hilarious bit where she claims to have been writing a letter to a friend of hers. This is reported in the biography, while her and George H. Walker Bush were watching television at said Rotary Club when the assassination happened. And so there's a bit in the autobiography where she's like, oh, thank you, Eleanor, blah, 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 blah. Oh, my God, I just saw the president killed live on TV, and I want to be very clear. My husband was right here next to me when it happened.
Whoa, what?
He absolutely was. No, it's serious. In her autobiography, it's hilarious. She's writing a letter. She's like, oh, I just saw JFK be shot on TV. Me and George were here watching it. As if she's being like, he was here with me. He definitely was here with me when it happened. Do not. This is a contemporaneous account.
Right. So that was the original. That was the original CIA conspiracy theorist right there. The old, no, come on. There's nothing to see here. Don't worry. Here's the original, like, bookmarked, notated at the moment that he was with me when this went down. Dear God.
Hilarious. I've never really tried to track down the exact minutes of, like, when he gave the speech and when the assassination happened. But George H. Walker Bush, long-term CIA operative, at one point CIA director, I assume he did not get caught with his pants down in Parkland Square when it happened. So would be my guess. But still, but a guy in the comments was talking about that, so I figured I'd bring up at least my knowledge about it.
Shout out comments. All right, 702-957. Go ahead.
Don't remember your name, guy in the comments, but you know who you are.
Guy in the comments, we love you, and you know who you are. 702-957-1037. We're about to get woo. We're about to go weird because, of course, you know what happens when you pour baby juice all over an old conspiracy, even nearly 60 years old. Things get weird. So let's do it. Let's go to our good friend Derek in Massachusetts, the Night Stalker. You're on Troubled Minds. Thanks for peeling out time for us. Go right ahead. What you got, man? Surely there's something bizarre here that is making your brain buzz, if I'm right.
Oh, for sure. Great show tonight. Great job, Axel.
Thank you.
I've been like popping in and out, so I'm like a little. I hate kind of going in blind. I heard majority of the first hour. So, did you mention like the pop culture synchronicities with the Umbrella Academy stuff that we mentioned the other day, Mike?
Nope.
Not a thing. You're right on time, actually.
Beautiful. It's nice. That's a little synchronicity. All right. So, again, good job, Axel. I really love when you're on, by the way. Just great presence on the show. So, quick spoiler alert for two random shows here. Umbrella Academy season 2. It's like essentially like a creepier version of the X-Men with this kind of like headmaster Charles Xavier type genius connected elite person. Has like a bunch of like powered kids and stuff, and he's a real shady character. And the whole plot of season 2, I forget why they killed him, but it ended up being that the number 5, like the kid assassin, the time traveling one, was time traveling, popping around time, trying to kill JFK, and then he ended up again, spoiler alert, he didn't do it, I don't think. But it ended up being his dad did it, or his dad was behind it for some reason. But like, long story short, Majestic 12 wanted him killed, and then it turns out like,
what's the kid's name?
5. Like, they all go by numbers. So just one, like one.
I wondered if his real name if the people writing the show were Noided, and so if his real name had some connection. But that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they did put like Jack Ruby and stuff in there in the show. But like, Majestic 12 wanted him dead for some reason, for some alien reason. And then again, spoiler alert, it turns out that this headmaster Hargreave, this father figure, is an alien, and the reason why he's so smart and can put all these genius inventions is because he's an alien, and he was the one who was exchanging all the technology with Majestic 12 and all that kind of stuff, which is a weird alien connection. I probably should have led with this one though. American Horror Story, the same year, they did a whole alien season for the first time ever, and they did it about Roswell. And in that show they talked about how they killed JFK because he was pillow talking with Marilyn Monroe about the aliens, and they had to take him out. And they went a whole thing about how Roswell gave us the microwave and how Eisenhower and Truman like knew about it and all that kind of stuff. But that's two different alien things. And I don't know, any thoughts on that before we get to the ritual stuff? Weird. Yeah.
That was the one for me that I knew it's out there, but I don't want to lend any credence to it personally because I don't know enough about it. But I do know it's whispered quite a lot. Let's say, you know, if you can whisper on the internet, I know it's not a thing, but the whispers on the internet say that. Go ahead, Axel. What you got?
Oh, Marilyn Monroe's story is really so sad. I mean, there are a lot of assassination theories about her death. I'm actually not going to give my own opinion about it because I don't have a strong one, but there definitely are a lot of people that think she was killed because of her relationship with the Kennedys. That certainly is true. But the movie Blonde that came out last year is actually not a good representation of her life. It's very fictionalized, but her own real story is in fact pretty sad. I do want to say around the Umbrella Academy, Night Stalker, you know about the Umbrella Man during the JFK shooting, or do you not?
Vaguely, I know him just because there was an Umbrella Man during one of the shootings, like during the George Floyd incident or whatever. There was an Umbrella Man, so it got like rehashed. So I only know it tangentially. If you could explain that, that'd be great.
That's the grassy knoll guy, right?
No, I mean, during the JFK shooting, the motorcade passed by this guy that had an umbrella. There was no rain. There was never going to be rain in Dallas that day. And his umbrella was open. And as the motorcade passed by, after the first shots, but before Kennedy was killed with the headshot, he stood up and pumped his umbrella up and down. Now, a lot of people, including me, think that he was someone that was signaling the second shooter to take the shot because Kennedy wasn't dead yet. Now, way later, like in the 90s, they tracked down someone who claimed to be the Umbrella Man. Was he? Who knows? But this guy said that he was the guy that was there, and he had the umbrella as some sort of very complicated piece of political theater where he was pretending to be Neville Chamberlain, the guy that, the peace in our time guy with Hitler, claiming to be him. And he was doing that because he thought that Kennedy was giving too much to the Soviets. But I'll be blunt. I don't think that guy was the actual umbrella guy. I think they found someone to say that. I think the umbrella guy is very clearly signaling the second shooter. That's just my opinion.
Propaganda. Hey, come on! You can always get somebody to fess up to something 20 years later for some notoriety.
You can always write someone a big check. Is what I'd like to say.
Like, especially with all the weird MK Ultra type connections that could be tied to this. I forget. I should have done research before the show, but I forget if it's Oswald or Jack Ruby. But one of them is tied to like the Harvard LSD experiments, and they believe that it was one of these like triggered MK Ultra Winter Soldier type characters. I forgot the umbrella. Yeah, good. Sorry.
So, Jack Ruby's definitely tied to an MK Ultra guy. We talked about it briefly earlier, but I don't think anyone said that he himself was MK Ultra. MK Ultra was a little later. Like, it really came into its own like in the mid to late 60s.
Yeah,
the assassination happened.
Come on, stop. Seriously, you're gonna literally go back into the past and be like, well, because it didn't actually become like relevant until a little bit later. They certainly weren't doing it earlier. Come on, of course they were. Stop it.
They might have been, but I just don't see how they would have gotten to Ruby or Oswald before their participation in the events, my friend. I mean, I could be wrong. This is my feeling.
Fair enough.
I think it's via Harvard and like the Timothy Leary, Richard Alpert type, like the LSD studies that were going on during them. It wouldn't be MK Ultra proper, but like when I say MK Ultra, I don't mean the actual program. I mean the mechanisms that they use in order to get stuff. I forgot. Yeah, go ahead. Sir.
And Timothy Leary definitely was CIA. That's an open secret now. Like, everyone knows that. And he was traveling around in part under government direction, handing out LSD to all these people. Like, there's also the whole thing about the guy that was in the Grateful Dead band who was making all the LSD. I mean, he wasn't. He was getting it from the government. But the theory was there was a guy in the Grateful Dead band that was making all the LSD and passing it out. Yeah, that's a whole different... The Laurel Canyon scene is a whole different show.
Yeah.
One of the rabbit hole. Give us some maybe juice, Derek. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, and I think the umbrella guy was, I think in the show, Hargreave and like the old guy, he is that umbrella guy in the story. So to kind of tie that with the alien stuff, I think it's interesting. So they call JFK, again, I'm not an expert in this, but this is like one of the big major, like the 9/11 for the era before me, type conspiracy. But I've just never gone fully deep on it. It's on the 33rd parallel, so it's tied to all that kind of 33rd stuff. So they call it the killing of the king ritual. So it's like the same parallel that Martin Luther King was on. I think RFK. I'm not positive. Very recently, there was a rapper who was called himself King, and who died at the Memphis pyramids this past year during one of these modern day rituals that puts along the pyramids, but it's also along Roswell, which kind of gives it like the alien connotation. That's all on 33rd parallel, and then. To tie it with space, which is just covered in rituals and stuff, he made his announcement being like, we got to get to space, obviously. So he was kind of this figurehead for space, and then he was killed, and then we get to space. So if we think the space things were all tied and wrapped up in rituals, and he was kind of connected to that tapestry, and then they named the Kennedy Space Center the Kennedy Space Center, so he's kind of this ritualistic figurehead potentially. And then like, that's essentially all I really know about that. Like I'm not sure what the ritual is for, other than just like what any of these rituals are for power, or to collapse the pillars of reality and bring the Titans back, or to get these like different workings in, or to bring the like the intelligence apparatus, give them more power and that kind of stuff. But like the CIA and these organizations, like they're working with magic too. So it's I don't think it's like CIA or magic. It's probably both together, and probably the mafia is also with this weird magic stuff too.
I think real quick, hold your note. If you got a minute, hold your note. So here's the thing for me when it comes to this magic stuff. I think that the dare I say, speculating heavily, the preponderance of the evidence in the old days is that they realized that we have sort of a superposition of consciousness, and that's how we actually create our own reality. Okay, again, just heavily speculating here. And I think what's happening in those terms of the rituals is they're just they're basically chasing that idea that if they put all this stuff into the zeitgeist in mass media and all the rest of the stuff and just press forward an idea, that everybody else sort of believes the idea along with them, and that is what sort of brings the magic. And so you see what I'm saying? In that case, it's no longer magic; it's sort of just manipulating consciousness. That's my take there. Just that's how I see it. I may be wrong, but just wanted to throw that in.
No, for sure. And that's like, there's a great argument for that is all the magic is. It's just, I mean, we get into we're manifesting with the manifesting engine of reality. So everything is shooting through us. So magic is essentially just changing the filter to get a desired result. You know, that's kind of what sigil magic is. It's trying to squeeze things into your subconscious so that when reality is shot through it, that's the things that manifest, the things that you want to manifest. But also we get into the weird ley line type of stuff that we were talking about yesterday. So doing these type of things on like the earth body will have like consciousness effects, like have these ripple effects and all kinds of stuff. So like, yeah, I'm not sure. And again, like you're saying before the break, whether it works or not, who's to say? But just the elites, the priest classes have been doing it forever. And I mean, I don't really think that they stopped because like it's our time now. We're in modern day, so our modern day elites don't do it. I think they do, and like you said, like millionaires don't believe in this stuff, but billionaires definitely do. So just one like stupid thing I'm going to throw out, but like, so he's one of these, and just the idea they ritualized him as a character, and like you're talking about Marilyn Monroe, she became ritualized as a character. Like I didn't live through her time, obviously, and she's probably very famous, but like she's also just this, like we talked about superheroes as our gods wear spandex the other day. Like she is one of these kind of iconic figures now, like this James Dean type of character for every generation since. And then the same way with Kennedy, like he is part of these 13 Illuminati bloodlines or whatever you want to say. Like he's related to the rest of them. Just like my big problem with every presidential candidate, they're all related. Give us somebody who's not related, but yet he's considered this awesome president, this great, this like. Well, the last pure president. After him, it all went downhill. After him, just the country all fell apart. He's this like cipher for every single conspiracy because he said that thing about secret societies. So like, is he going after the deep state? Is he trying to bust the secret societies that are around Roswell and the alien people? Like everybody can apply him to like they ritualized him as a character to like potentially like give us the world that we're living in right now. I'm off the rails, but like, so just one last point.
Well, welcome to the joint.
Well, look, if I just real quick, I guess I would say that like, so we've alluded to it a couple of times, but the 33rd northern latitude for Americans, it is the border between Louisiana and Arkansas. It's at like that latitude. It does pass through the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You were talking about Memphis, Texas. Memphis, Texas isn't anywhere close to the 33rd parallel, so who knows? But
Memphis, Tennessee. With the pyramid. Memphis, Tennessee.
No, Tennessee is way north of that. Is what I'll say.
Are you sure?
Oh, Tennessee's not down by Louisiana.
Don't make me bust out a map. Don't make me bust a map. Anyway, go ahead. Go with your thoughts.
But the second thing I was going to say was that it was about Marilyn Monroe. Darn it. Yeah. You were making a good point about how she'd been ritualized. Oh, I was going to say, if none of you have ever seen her, our audience here, love you guys. If none of you have ever seen her in a movie, probably the movie that was most well received she was in is Some Like It Hot. It's probably on YouTube. You can watch it. It's a 1950s screwball comedy. She's very funny and sexy in it. So if you want to see what all the talk was about, that'd be my advice.
Get it? Yeah. Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah. No, again, when Blum was coming out, all the pop culture pod does something. She's great. So I don't want to like say that they ritualized her to make it seem like she's a bad person. Like she's a victim in these scenarios. And also her like symbology and stuff became kind of MK Ultra type. Like that's what you look for is her type of like markers.
Stephen Hawking was obsessed with her.
Oh, I'm sure. So with the Kennedy thing, so he's part of these bloodlines and everything. So for me, I got to try to reconcile, like, why did they kill one of their own? And so in my head, kind of like what I imagine is this ancient, so these bloodlines go back, who knows how long. And I say 13 bloodlines, but that's just like for ease of use. So imagine like a bunch of cavemen in the early days doing the first spell, like bringing magic into this reality or whatever, like 13 different like leaders of their clans kind of all surrounding this like a stone circle, but they got to kill one of them in order to get the magic, to get the power to dominate humanity forever. And that person is like Kennedy or like Kennecott of the clan or whatever, the Kennedy descendant. And then forever, like every time they got to recharge their power, they take him out, they take his brother out, they take his son out, they try to take his other brother out. I'm worried about this his nephew. I'm worried about the young one who's like closer to my age, who's coming up in the system in Boston, who has red hair. So I'm kind of rooting for him. So like, what if it's like, and I made the connection to like Batman in Dark Knight's Metal when they're talking about how and Axel was the perfect person to talk about this with the Court of Owls and the elites of Gotham. They use the Wayne family as the same thing, like the Wayne killings and torturing Bruce and all that kind of stuff are all rituals that this elite bloodline uses amongst one of their own to bring in Barbados and these like evil gods, and that's kind of where I'm going with it. But
now between us friends, Night Soccer, and at the risk of getting off topic, do you think it enhances the Batman mythos for his parents' death to be a ritual act by a group of rich perverts?
It does to me. If I write my own Batman story, it's going to be that Gotham is at the center of a ley line. It's between two rivers, which is true. The Opera House was built on the ley line, and they killed their Waynes behind there to bring in a Batman, and it would be Bruce Wayne versus a giant Mothman character that was brought in when his parents were killed, and that's what inspired him to become Batman. That's my headcanon.
Where do you think Gotham City is? There's a canonical answer revealed to us in the DC role-playing game. Sorry, Mike, I'm really getting off topic. But there's a canonical answer given to us in the DC role-playing game. But where do you think it is?
Wait, we got like literally 30 seconds left. So go ahead, Derek, finish up, and then we'll come back and follow up with that, Axel. Go ahead, Derek.
Chris Nolan's in Chicago. My head is New York. In Zack Snyder, it's Minneapolis because it's across the lake from Metropolis. But it's great show, you guys. Awesome stuff. Actually, you're the man. Mike, you're the man. Later.
Officially in the RPG, it's in New Jersey.
Derek, you're the man. Derek, you're the man. Jersey Shore, yeah. Yep. Shout out, Derek. Give him a follow. Look, we got Axel here tonight. Please give Axel a follow. I'll have all the links in the description below. Follow all of our friends, troubledminds.org/friends. Derek, the Night Stalker, you know him, you love him. We're talking about the shadow of JFK. We're talking about this conspiracy that lives on nearly 60 years later, and we'll probably revisit and the 60-year anniversary, probably, hopefully, with Axel. We're still doing this, talking about what do you know about this? Is this real? Is it somewhere in between? 702-957 and 1037. This is Troubled Minds with Michael Strange. Be right back. More on the way. We're going to get super weird. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We're broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Just search it, KUAPDB. You'll find it. Tonight, we're here with my good friend, Axel Steele. Not only is he a dear friend of mine, he is also the official dungeon master of Troubled Minds, and he's also the official parapolitical expert of Troubled Minds. We're talking about the JFK assassination, but not only in the old school term. RFK Jr. said recently on the Joe Rogan podcast that he feels that he's also in danger himself. Now look, I don't know if that's true. He says it. I don't have like Kennedy family secrets or any of the rest of that stuff. And you got to imagine, okay, in those terms, that there's probably something, I don't know, think about it. Like, think about your family and your family secrets, whatever that means, right? And I'm not saying to diminish it. I'm saying that, like, the Kennedys go back an awful long time in literal organized crime, and that's where their money came from. And so you got to imagine the skeletons in those closets are overflowing, is my point. And so if you have a modern Kennedy saying straight up, I got to watch what I say because they might off me, or at least heavily imply that, well, I think we should consider it as a possibility. What do you guys think? 702-957-1037. Axel Steele, welcome back. Take on there, and we'll get into that 33rd parallel stuff and the ritual of the killing of the king in a sec. But I got those clips to play. I know I sent it to you, but your take on anything to this point, and then we'll get to that in a sec. How you doing, my bro?
No, I think we're doing okay. I mean, Harry said, always a pleasure to be here. I guess I don't have anything really new to say. I mean, whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about. I can go on about how Jack Ruby also probably worked for the CIA forever. It's fine. But if you got a clip to play for me to react to, I'm on board.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so let's do that. So here's the thing. So, like, shout out Derek the Night Stalker. Like I said, I haven't had. I'm usually in a different mind space. We have a guest tonight. Like, I can't thank Axel enough for being the expert and being a good friend and being here and talking about these things and helping me sort of learn things I don't know quite yet. But also, I'm gonna do something weird right now because I'm time traveling. In the moment, right. I am actually broadcasting from November 22nd, 1963 at 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And the rest of y'all, I don't know how you're hearing me, but we're doing it anyway. So because I've changed my filter to be all black and white and weird and shit. Okay, so here's the thing, right? I'm going to play this thing. We're talking about this killing of the king ritual, okay, for just a sec. Now we're going full weird. Axel, don't worry. The materialist still has a place here because you're the official dungeon master of Troubled Minds. Put your DM hat on and think about this in terms of magic and Dungeons and Dragons. I'm going to play this clip or two, and then we're going to think about how this actually plays out or does not. Now, they say that the actual murder of JFK in 1963 was a killing of the king ritual on the 33rd parallel. There's all kinds of weird stuff that happens to it, including, of course, November 22nd. That's 11/22. That's 1122, which ends up 33 if you add them all together, etc. So on. There's a whole lot to this. Like, this is not the rabbit hole that I was really anticipating going down, but I thought we would be remiss if we didn't talk about it. Here we go. Let me make sure Axel and everybody could hear it on Discord. All right. Here's the thing. Here's what the killing of the king ritual is. In the words of, let's see, this is from this individual, Noland Knows, Knoland Knows, and he had an interview with, anyway, so links in the description if you want to listen to the entire thing, and it's blah, blah. Clipped a couple things out to kind of just talk about this. Here we go. Listen to this.
The killing of the king ritual is the means whereby elites working under the crown, when they sense any weakness in the father figure, weaken him further and eventually kill him, taking over, trying to take some of that authority that he has to themselves and rule the country as some kind of a oligarchic triumvirate. It's a destruction of the ruling figure. It's destruction of unity. It's a destruction of logos. Christ himself. The Pharisees demanded the Romans kill Christ. Because murdering him, they would continue in their power, their authority, and their wealth. All forms of this ritual partake in the initial murder of the killing of God. You take the king's power and, divide that up amongst those who've risen up in rebellion. And this is central to Freud's idea that either you have the monarchy as a symbol of unity or oligarchy, this controlled chaos, the psychological use of chaos for the sake of those gaining power. Because chaos increases the suggestive nature of those who live under it. Chaos, revolution, warfare, these are central to any revolution taking place. Any war, economic upheaval, people become more suggestive, looking for someone, any group or institution to save them, and they're going to sacrifice quite a bit in order to be saved.
All right. There we go. I got to kill the thing, the echo for Axel. So regarding that, like I said, put your dungeon master hat on, and like we said earlier, it doesn't quite matter if the elites believe magic is real or magic is actually real. If they believe it and it's a thing, then it's still creepy AF. What's your take on that in the 33rd parallel and this type of stuff? Do you think that, again, even to the point of, let's say, a super ritual in terms of like maybe calling Kennedy a polarizing figure politically, and I mean maybe not polarizing, let's say a figure that is bringing people together. I mean, I guess you could argue about JFK. I mean, I watched some of his old debates.
He was very popular.
He was incredibly popular, and so maybe even, dare we say, more popular in terms of polling in his first term of the presidency there. Again, going to the moon. I mean, there's so many like just incredible things. Of course, it didn't happen. He sort of ushered that in, and he ended up dead before that happened for him personally. But I mean, there's a lot of really weird things with JFK in terms of populism, but it's a good thing. I'm not an enemy of populism in the terms of like, just if you do the right stuff, everybody's going to be like, yeah. Like, hey, so wouldn't you know it? If you do the right things, everybody's going to be happy about it. But what do you think about that sort of 33rd parallel and how this all fits? Do you think there's something there? Again, put your dungeon master's hat on. Go right ahead, sir.
I've listened to the whole video. What I would say is that, is it possible that, I mean, there's obvious tie-ins here. As you say, 1122 is 33. It was on the 33rd parallel. There's 33 degrees in the Mason hierarchy. I mean, was this killing some elaborate ritual to gain power? I mean, if you want to put on your maybe hat, maybe it was. I will say, with the guy in the videos talking about those, really not very convincing. He's basically being like, when there's someone in charge and you want to overthrow him, you try to weaken him. Well, yeah, obviously that's how overthrowing a government works. Like, how else would it happen? It's just, I mean, he's putting the moon music on where it's all super sinister, but it's like, and later on that same video, there's a thing where he's kind of like, well, when they tried to dethrone a president like JFK or Trump, they're doing the same ritual. And it's like, but wasn't our own country built around that same ritual? Like, does the ritual just propagate? It just turns into like, every time you want to overthrow a leader, yeah, you're going to overthrow a leader. Yeah, you want the power the leader has. Why else are you overthrowing them? Like, that part seems sort of silly to me.
No, I think so. Except there's a weird twist there that kind of resonated with me, and it's like, maybe, just maybe, like I said, I can't think of let's say. And again, JFK was not in my lifetime, not in your lifetime, or Generation X. But I think, like you just described, JFK was incredibly popular. But again, he had the skeletons in his closet. He had, like the drug addiction. He had, the bad back. He had the Marilyn Monroe stuff, and like the honeys in the pool.
Sorry. His war heroism was mostly fake. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, lots of problems. But the point is, he was sort of, again, like I said, put this in your own mind out there, whoever's listening. He was sort of the culmination of the moment of what everybody could get behind in a president, and then boom, everything went nuts. And so that's sort of my point. If you look at this in like a, 2020 is the past perspective, it seems like if you were trying to spin off control to a different timeline, and I don't mean that in like the actual multiverse sense. I mean it in if the zeitgeist has really culminated in this moment and this man. Again, even though the Kennedys, organized crime, like I said, there's a lot of really dirty stuff here. But the populist sort of zeitgeist is bubbling with this dude, and he trounced I don't know, like not only did he get elected, and it wasn't like a super close election. It was sort of close, but he won. But then once he got elected, everybody's I'm into this guy.
the 60 election was very close. There's always been all these rumors that, the mafia helped him steal Illinois, my home state, which is why I know about it. The mafia helped him steal Illinois to make sure he won. But he was cruising to re-election in 64. That definitely was true. He was hugely popular.
Yeah, hugely popular. Yeah, you again, my knowledge is a little foggy there, but I know that. So, and my point I'm trying to make is that he seems to be like a culmination of that zeitgeist moment of what the future can become, sort of the hope of the future in terms of we're going to the moon, right? And then of course the implication next is we're going to Mars. Like this is going to be the leader that brings us, at least vision wise, because of course term limits and whatnot, vision wise to that technological fast forward to the multiplanetary species.
If I had something positive to say about JFK, because I'm not as positive about him as a lot of his biographers are, but I do think he was someone that was in an interesting position in the sense that most of our presidents tend to, at some level, be self-made men. I mean, I know the Bushes come from a wealthy family, but, Obama didn't, Clinton didn't, Carter really didn't, even Reagan in a lot of ways really didn't. And so JFK was a bit of an outlier in the sense that, he was from this extremely wealthy family that had presidential ambitions for a long time. And so I think, and I don't know if this is a negative, but I think he got into office without having to do a lot of the compromises you have to do to attain power if you're not someone from a wealthy family. And so I do think in a lot of ways he sort of believed in America, the concept, in a way that most presidents don't really, because, they've had to get to that position through, being owned by donors or shady dealings or whatever. And so I do think that was why people kind of rallied behind him, because he was selling the propaganda, but he seemed to believe in it. And that's always better than someone selling the propaganda that you think doesn't really believe it.
Exactly. And not only that, it's also nice that a generation prior, all the money came from organized crime, and you can eschew all of that and say that they did their time. So, well,
his father wanted to run for president, Joe Kennedy, and so JFK was one of three brothers. He was the middle brother. RFK was his junior brother, and Joe Kennedy Jr. was his older brother. And Joe Kennedy Sr., their father, he wanted to run for president at one point. He's the guy. He's a bootlegger. But it all fell apart because in the 30s he backed Hitler, basically. And so when that didn't work out, his political career was over. But he was grooming the eldest son, Joe Kennedy Jr., to become president. But he died after World War II, in a very early remote-controlled plane experiment. I'm not making this up. It was a very early experiment about can you remote-control planes? And he was one of the crew on board the remote-controlled plane, and it crashed and he died. So he was supposed to be, the good boy who would run. But he got killed in this accident.
Wait, stop. So are we literally talking the name of the show tonight is this? It's the Shadow of JFK Full Circle Conspiracies. So we're literally talking about an old plane crash that offed a brother that was probably going to be the presidential candidate. So JFK eased into that role. And also, by the way, his son also offed in a plane crash. Dear God. That's what I'm saying. Doesn't it feel like we're in a simulation? Anyway, all right, let's go. There's another. We got calls we got to take. So
okay, let's take calls. Let's take calls.
It's super weird, right? This is super weird, and this is the point. This is why all the tinfoil tingles. If you got a tinfoil hat, by the way, aluminum is not tinfoil. Go check your local supply stores. 702-957-1037. Go ahead, sir.
If we have calls, that's cool. I'll stick around till they're gone.
Okay, same here. We got calls. Let's do it. Let's go to Joe in Florida. What's up, my friend? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you? Go right ahead.
Not too bad. Great topic. Your knowledge on it is great. Honestly, I'm not a big JFK conspiracy guy just because I don't care too much for the way they got there. I just think in my mind for this, it was done by the government for a reason. And if we want to take the big conspiracy, maybe juice after the third hour here, I start to look at archetypes, and it seems like parts of our history, whenever people might be united, something tends to happen to them. Lincoln, there's comparisons with Lincoln and Kennedy, but when I look at the whole timeline in that area, Kennedy, we mentioned MLK and Malcolm X in the very beginning of the show. So, and Michael, you kind of just touched on it in the last few minutes. If we look at how divided we are now, we can maybe attribute that, or this, we could attribute that assassination to maybe the way we are now. And that has secured power for the two-party system and whatever else runs it. That has definitely secured power. And before that, Eisenhower giving us the warning about the industrial complex. And here you have a president who was trying to unify people, gets assassinated because having everybody unified is a scary thing. I had a boss, she's African-American, she would tell me that, because we would get into these conversations about race and things, and she was older than me, and she said, in a lot of African-American families, you would have a picture of JFK, RFK, and MLK. Or not JFK, you gotta know, or Robert Kennedy, whatever, and Martin Luther King in their houses. And I remember years ago you did a show on the Hegelian dialect, and in that clip I seem to remember them talking about that even Malcolm X was subject to the Hegelian dialect and this, create a problem, no problem, pressure from above, below, and get the solution. But again, it seems like history repeats itself. People that maybe want to unify the people beneath them, they seem to be taken out. I start to wonder if, and I don't know if this was addressed in the show because I was in and out, but I believe that they tried to take JFK's wife in Tampa, I think right in Ybor City, a couple of weeks earlier before they took it in Texas. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's what, but there was an attempt on his life a couple of weeks earlier. I don't know if you can elaborate on that.
I don't know anything about it. You know anything about that, Axel?
There's always been rumor. Sorry. Most of these come from, so the Secret Service was by all accounts, this is the story. The Secret Service was all white, and JFK was kind of like, why don't I have a black Secret Service guy? What's going on? And so they did hire a black Secret Service guy. And he ended up getting fired from the Secret Service after the assassination. He got charged with, I can't remember what the crimes were. He got charged with something. But after the assassination, he was always the source talking about how, I'm not doing this to diminish his character, I'm just doing it to give you guys context. After the assassination, he would always be talking about how there were earlier assassination warnings, as our call-in said, one in Miami, and then another one in Chicago. And I don't know much about the Miami one, but the one in Chicago, the whole theory was kind of similar to what happened in Dallas. Like, it was supposed to be this other Marine guy that had vague communist leanings that was planning to kill him, blah, blah, blah. I know in the Chicago case, it was dangerous enough, or at least according to the source, it was dangerous enough that JFK didn't go. Like, he was supposed to go to Soldier Field to a game or something, and he ended up not going. And the official reason was like bad weather or schedule conflict or something like that. But this Secret Service guy said it was because of the threat on his life.
Well, so when saying all of that, I start to think that we've mentioned, some of the mob, but I start to wonder if maybe somebody struck a deal with the mob, the government, somebody struck a deal with, I guess the word would be wet works, or somebody in the mob, that maybe the mob would place the hit and maybe this particular group could do what they want for a while with very little oversight. Maybe it was a done deal, so that we have our scapegoats, we have our patsies, but the mob are the ones that did the assassination. They walk away clean, or they get some kind of a deal, because wasn't his brother was going after the mafia, I believe, at some point in time, and maybe a lot of that pressure went away when this was done. And then I look at LBJ, who brought about all these social programs, and the argument is made today that once these social programs came about, he knew he had a lot of electors that were going to be electing Democrat now because he gave a lot of things away. I'm not making an opinion on it or anything, but he did give things away, and not that it's a giveaway, but he put these social programs. I should word that better. I'm a little bit tired. But anyhow, we do know that it's hard to take things away once you start the program. And examples of that would be Social Security. It's not, it's not some kind of, I don't know if you want to say it's entitlement, but we pay into that. So when LBJ came in, I think he was trying to get people out of poverty. And to this day, we still argue about these programs and these affirmative actions. Even women's rights in the 60s, we had all that turmoil, and there was a lot of, human rights movements. And look at the way the country is now. We can almost say that we're going back to before the 60s. So anyway,
back before the 60s. I'm sorry, back before the 60s in terms of rights, or what do you mean?
No, what I'm getting at is a lot of the social gains and the social movement for rights, just for women to be in the workplace, all kinds of these rights in the 60s came about. And, in the late 50s, when it almost seems like now there's a certain cabal in government that's trying to roll those gains back.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You follow what I'm saying? And I mean, and what I'm looking at is Kennedy, and I just had this conversation this week, when Kennedy and MLK got shot and assassinated, the dream of the country, the dream of what the country could have been, was gone right there. And when we talk about changing time, and not changing timelines, but changing the course of the country and fracturing the country, okay? Any hope that we had was gone right there. And that was it. And you can look at examples of, let's just take Obama. Obama had all these, all presidents, I'm going to say, they all have these grand plans. And when they get in, they must be shown something or told something, and it's just the status quo. And it's been the status quo.
Hunter, real quick, it's the same with Trump. Remember, like I said about the JFK files, he's like, I'm gonna release all that shit, and they're like, oh, by the way, Mike Pompeo's like, and he's like, okay, never mind.
That's exactly it. I mean,
go Axel.
And here's the thing: when you look when you look at the 40s, and when you look at the history of the United States, probably from 1865, well, Civil War to now. But we were in conflict. World War I, the Depression, World War II. You get united. We all kind of got united because we had to pull through and do what we had to do because of this menace. Now we have, post-World War II, the country has great prosperity. People are feeling their rights now. Things start to change.
We're out of time, Broseph. We're out of time. We're out of time.
Has to be consolidated. Good night.
You're the best. Joe in Florida, amazing stuff as always. Hang tight, Axel. We got 2 more calls after this, and then we'll wrap this. About 30 more minutes if you got it. If you don't got it in you, that's totally cool. If you're listening to us, thank you for hanging out.
I love the calls.
I love you. Axel's the best. Look, if you're listening to us on the radio, stay tuned for whoever comes next on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. If you're listening to us on any other platform, look, I gotta respect the thing. All right, so we killed the thing, but we got 2 more calls. We got APOC, then we got Jennifer. So real quick, thank you, Joe, for the phone call. respond to what he said, and then we'll go to the ladies, and then we'll wrap this. So what you got, brother?
Really quick, I love both APOC and Jennifer, so I'm so glad to hear from them. But I will say about Joe's call, Hunter S. Thompson, I can't remember the name of the essay, but he has that famous essay where he's in California, and he's like, if you look right over there, like on the Santa Clara Cliffs, you can see where the tide of progress rolled up. It got as high as it was going to go. It crested, and that's where it rolled back in the late 60s. So that was the consensus at the time.
Amen. So regarding, we didn't get your actual the full take, and you can make it a brief take on the ritual with the 33rd disc business. Do you think this is actually like a sort of an assassination moment of a particular super zeitgeist moment wherein the democracy is being usurped by magic?
I mean, I do think democracy was being usurped. It's just, I don't think they saw it as a ritual themselves. I just think he was in a city where the chief of police and the mayor were very closely connected to the CIA, where they had control of them. He was just in the wrong place at the right time for the people that killed him.
Wait, so which is it? Is it the wrong place at the wrong time, or is it the right place at the wrong time? Well, I don't even know.
He was in the wrong place for himself, but the right time for the people that wanted to kill him. How's it goes.
There you go, indeed. We're here with my good friend Axel Steele. Follow him on Twitter at Axel Steele, just like it spells. AXLE.
Do not follow me on Twitter.
STEELE. Look, like I said, he's a good friend, and he's been. And this is a good example, by the way. I want to point this out, that Axel and myself politically could be not close. Like, it's never been close. It doesn't matter though, because like we're bros, and we're like, hey, like there's a lot of other things to talk about than political nonsense. And so you see, look, as I'm saying, like, I'm not trying to be like, look, I got a communist friend or anything like that. I'm just trying to say, like, stop trying to label people and stop trying to make people, in this world, this dichotomy of, they're this or they're that. Stop. People are people. And look, there are people that label themselves different ways, and people that, again, me, but I try my best to avoid labels. But of course, I'm biased as all humans are. But my point here is, we can be together. It's okay. We can talk. We can have a good time. We can consider possibilities beyond what our personal reason is. And I can't thank Axel enough for being here tonight. Thanks for peeling out some time for us. We're going to go a little bit over time and do a couple more calls if you're okay with that. Amen, brother. Again, follow Axel Steele on Twitter, or he says don't. There we go. Let's do it. Let's go to 2 more calls and we're out of here. So it's cut off after this. Let's go to APOC in Oklahoma. What's up? You're on Troubled Minds. You're on with Mike, of course, and with Axel Steele. Click the thing, do the thing, and you're up. APOC, you're on Troubled Minds. How are you tonight? Go right ahead.
Let's drop something.
Get it. APOC is silent if you're speaking. We can't hear you. We need the reboot, the old Discord reboot. This is what I'm saying. In the old days, it used to spook the crap out of me because everything was broken. And I was like, hey, look, my actual audio is legit. I've tested this 100 times over and everything's fine. And then the shit would break. And the reason it broke is because Discord was always updating constantly. And so anyway, APOC, you're on Troubled Minds. How are you? Go right ahead.
Okay, so Axel knows about I'd be remiss in not bringing up the Mandela effect when it comes to the Kennedy assassination, because we have the situation with the doors on the cars and the different positions of the people and the different positions of the driver with the gun. And so what do you think? You know how I feel about that. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I know the official story is that JFK and his wife were at the back seat, and there was a front seat with the driver, but it was a big Cadillac, and so there also was kind of like a middle seat area you could insert, and that's where the Secretary of the Navy was, and I think his wife. I mean, don't quote me on the his wife part, but the Secretary of the Navy, that's where he was. I mean, that's my understanding of what happened. I mean, what do you think is the alternate explanation?
Well,
or the alternate view?
I think with troubled minds, we have to bring in the maybe juice and say, what if? I mean, it may be real.
Wait. There's no any of that. There's no like actual pressure and implication. Like if you think it's all horseshit nonsense, you can say that. It's fine. I mean, maybe juice is good. We all like the maybe juice, but literally, honestly, if you actually think it's horseshit nonsense, say it. It's fine. There's no pressure.
I mean, I'm sincerely confused about what you think the other seating arrangement was. I don't know.
Okay, I remember it. I studied this for at least a year in 2015, I think it was. And it took me down a very long rabbit hole. I watched all the videos. I did all the things. I knew who was in the car. And then suddenly in like a few years later, there's 6 seats and 2 more people in the car. And I'm going, what? Wait a minute, this doesn't work for me, because I mean, it was just maybe 3 or 5 or 4, years between the time that I was doing the research and the time I looked it up again. And so what in the world is going on with that? It's just really weird,
I mean, it's possible. I only started looking at this stuff about 5-6 years ago, and so maybe I've been caught into whatever the reality rewriting effect is, I suppose. I mean, how would I know? I guess that's what I would say.
Right. Well, it's very strange, and so if you have all these other things coming in, you have the position of the Earth and we have to wonder. and so the maybe juice is all about that, right? If
hey, don't blame me. Don't blame me.
Well, I mean, I had to bring it up. It's an interesting phenomena, and yeah, I mean, it's very, very strange and remotely possible, right? So
I'll take remotely possible all day, every day. I think the thing is too. I think the thing is too regarding this type of stuff is so think about it this way, and again, this is super like a gallon of maybe juice, but if we found a way to sort of superposition not just personal reality, but like zeitgeist reality, and then pinpoint a particular moment where things spun off to a particular favorable future for the elite, maybe JFK is it. That's my point, right? Like super maybe juice, of course. Do I believe that? I'm not so sure. It's way out there, but he seems to be sort of a culminating moment in history where everybody knows him. And again, many of us didn't even live in his lifetime. And so it's weird, right? Like, do you find yourself at what Taft was like almost assassinated, or was he? Who's the guy that got shot through his book and his shirt or whatnot? I mean,
Thomas, no, the bad Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt.
He was the bad Roosevelt. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. My point is that if we're in a maybe juice universe, then and you can actually manipulate reality, and they figured this out a long time before they let the public know, then some of this stuff makes me go, I wonder where we are and where we're headed. personally, but otherwise, right? Like no personal conviction in terms of truth or anything cosmically, because like I said, I'm way underqualified. That's above my payroll. But anyway, go ahead. Axel and APOC, go ahead. We got Jen behind you. We got a so not super short, but go ahead and do the thing. What you guys got?
I mean, I'm fine with hearing what APOC has to say. What's up, APOC? Love to hear you again. Hope things are going well in Oklahoma.
Well, okay, it's just a very strange phenomenon. So we contemplate all the other possibilities, and the time travel thing is really a cool thing. I think of John Teeter, right? But, going through all this, all the possibilities you can bring into this if we have the possibility of time travel, and I think it's quite likely that we do, then why not go into that, they're going back and changing things a little bit, or even maybe changing the textbooks to where it looks like things are different and doing the gaslighting thing, right? I don't know. I mean, looking at it, it's very, I don't know, interesting.
Which is why we're here. I don't know. So do you think that, so what about family curses real quick? Do you think that, again, so we got JFK assassinated, his brother RFK assassinated, his RFK Jr. saying, oh, by the way, they got their eyeballs on me and this is the next thing. And we got family curses in other ways. Like think about Bruce Lee, Brandon Lee, like there's some really weird crap that happened with them. Do you believe in familial curses, and can you break them? And what's the guy JFK Jr. too in the plane? I mean, like I said, I'm not saying they're all connected. I'm saying that is it possible there are familial curses? What do you think about that?
I mean, I think there could be, but it's just that frequency, I suppose, the energy that gets caught up in a loop with, a group of people potentially. And, it's possible, of course. And yet, I don't think that, it's something to look at in a really, I don't know, validating way. I don't think,
Well, there's no truth here, so don't feel obligated to truth. I think that's part of the problem here. Like like the rest of the world's like, give us the truth. I'm like, hey, give us some possibilities. It's all fine. You're fine. You're fine. Even with Axel, he's a friend. Look, Axel and I are different, but we love each other. It's good. It's good to be different. It's good to think in different terms, and it's okay. It's all good. So don't worry about any of that stuff.
I'll just say familial curses never made sense to me. You curse someone that wronged you, and that's why the curse has power. So I don't really think you could apply it to people that didn't wrong you. Then it'd have no power. That's always sort of been my take.
I'll take a part. I will actually interject real quick and say that that there's like a DNA memory that has been well established at this point. That if you remove a pup from the litter, it still knows how to be a dog, etc. Even though the rest of the dogs are at birth, you remove one and then like let it be its thing, and then let the rest of the litter be its thing with the mom and the rest of the social group. But like the dog, the isolated dog still knows what's up to be a dog. It's like, the males lift their legs and they're still sort of there's still some sort of that DNA memory that fits to this, and so I don't know, like in those terms, like how does that fit? And I don't mean like familial curses and an actual curse where you're like, I curse you and the rest of your family forever. Maybe it's like a mind, like a ultimate mind fuck where they like I said, pointing the bone, and so the patriarch or whoever's running the family, the matriarch, dare I say, of course. Oh God, how dare you say women are great? Of the family is maybe possibly sort of spreading that curse unknowingly. I don't know. Like I said, personally, I don't know. I'm just a food for thought is all.
Well, speaking of dogs, I have one that just went crazy. Yeah, I have one that just went nuts when you were talking about it. And,
Here's some barking.
Get it? All right, do the thing. Go do the thing. APOC, you're the best. Thanks for popping in.
Thanks
for the
APOC.
amazing takes. Oh, Fab, give Puppy a scrub for us. Hey. We love puppies. We love puppies. All right, so we're still talking this. A little bit more and we'll finish. Thanks. Please follow APOC. Links in the description, troubleminds.org/friends. It says follow APOC here. She's got a podcast called Apocalypse Tau. And more stuff coming soon from her, of course. And we're doing the thing. Follow my friend here, Axel Steele, at Axel Steele. Just search.
Now you're just telling me to follow me. Telling people to follow me to annoy me.
I'm not, because you keep saying don't follow me.
Yes.
No, stop. He's a friend. He's a good friend, and we're gonna do some D&D stuff in the future, and like we're building things together. So stop like being dumb about it. It's fine.
You guys can follow me on Twitter if you want. I'm at Axel Steele. It's just my Twitter presence is pretty limited and mostly my annoying political takes, not my parapolitics stuff. So you can, that's what you want, you can get in there.
There it is. Exactly. There it is. And forgive him as I've forgiven him for his terrible political takes. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubleminds.org. Let's go to Jen in Missouri, the Arcane Observer. You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and Axel. How are you? What do you know about the JFK situation here? How are you?
Okay. So, yeah, good to be here. Axel, you're doing awesome job.
Thank you, Jen.
As could be expected, of course. Awesome presentation about it. I don't know a whole lot about this, but I may have done some research about it. And I just have a few things I wanted to bring up that I've been thinking about as I've been listening.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I wanted to bring up about the curses you guys are talking about is, have you heard of the Tecumseh curse?
No, I have not.
So it's kind of weird, but I thought I'd go ahead and bring it up. It was actually kind of secondary, but it's this curse, an urban legend, that the presidents of the United States, who were elected in years that end with the digit 0, which are divisible by 20, all die. And they all did, until Reagan. And Kennedy was one of those presidents. I'll bring that up first. So that included President Harrison, Lincoln, Garfield, Kinley, Harding, Roosevelt, and then Kennedy. And you have basically...
Even Reagan had an assassination attempt on him.
Yeah, they tried. Like I think that's what she's getting at here. There's sort of a shield here or something. Yeah, go ahead.
There's a thing going on that happened. And then you have, after that, you have Bush. Bush had a couple of attempts on him. He had a grenade. And they say like there was 2 attempts. Now, the current one, our current president actually falls under this paradigm too. But the curse has supposedly been broken with Reagan. So we'll just leave it with that. But the Kennedy was kind of under this Tecumseh curse. Now, going into that aside, because I think that that's interesting and kind of strange, but that all aside, looking at the actual assassination of JFK, I've always been really particular about just looking at trying to find out who did it. It's like it reminds me of like a game of Clue or something. I mean, it's terrible, but from the present looking back, that's how I think of it. And in that car, you have, of course, the driver, William Greer. And then the strange thing about him, that everybody thought that he was the one who maybe he had done it, is what people said. And of course, too, I'm one of those people too who forgot. I guess it was some type of, well, some people say it was the Mandela effect or something, but I didn't recall that there was that middle seat. But then neither here nor there, But go ahead and put it there, and you have, the driver and William Greer, his son, Richard Greer, when they questioned him later about what his father thought about Kennedy, he said this very strange thing. He said, well, we were Methodists and Kennedy was Catholic. Not the right thing to say, in my opinion. Like, that was just like the wrong thing to say as far as a quote to be taken from his son concerning it. And many people have speculated that he is shooting, perhaps, in the Zapruder film. Now, I don't abide with that. Anyway, moving on. Now, in the seats, you have the governor of Texas, John Connally. And he's the one who takes the wound through the chest or the upper neck area, and it somehow hits his wrist and it hits through his knee. Yeah, this strange rubber bullet theory they've been going on about. And then the case with Kennedy, I think at that instance when he gets hit, if you're looking at the Zapruder film, there's this black sign as they're coming down down the road. There's this black sign that comes up. As they come from behind that black sign, you see that Kennedy is grabbing his neck, and you see that already Connally has been struck. And he says, my God, they're going to kill us all, is what they quote him as saying.
George Connally he was a former Secretary of the Navy, but he has always maintained that Kennedy was hit first and he wasn't hit yet. So he never bought into the magic bullet theory. He always was saying it was two different shots. That Kennedy was hit, he turned around, and then he was hit.
Right. John Connally was, whenever he gets hit through the chest, he's injured. John Connally, the governor of Texas, in 1963. So he is the Secretary of the Navy, but he becomes the governor of Texas in 1963 after the assassination. And it's interesting that, his injuries, it occurs pretty much directly after it appears that Kennedy has been struck with maybe the first bullet, because that bullet enters into the governor of Texas. At that same point, it goes through his chest, through his wrist, and down into his knee and out the floorboard. And I think that's really strange as far as considering I do not necessarily think that the shots were fired from the window, because I think that's a very difficult shot, but it's not impossible. It's not that it's impossible. But then shortly after that, you have the second wound where Kennedy also, it's interesting, I wanted to talk about Dr. Hume, who did the autopsy. Dr. Hume was one of the 3 doctors to do the autopsy on Kennedy. And why did Dr. Hume burn his initial autopsy report? Because he did.
True.
The initial autopsy report that he did, still covered, so they say, in Kennedy's blood, this fireplace. And some say it's because the entry wounds were presented as coming from the front.
Well, there was the whole. Okay, so Dr. Hume has said he burned the notes because he didn't want them to become a collector's item. That's the official story. But it is true that at the very first press conference about the shooting, the Parkland doctors said he was shot from the front. So, because there was a press conference at Parkland Hospital very quickly after the assassination, and they said Kennedy was hit from the front, and that has gotten totally memory hold.
Yeah. and Perry had to do a tracheotomy type of thing, which may have kind of obscured the entry wound or one of the two wounds at the neck of Kennedy. Anyway, one of the wounds, what I'm getting at is that the wound that comes from the right of Kennedy's, of his Adam's apple, to the right of that, and then out through the right of his head, some say a wound the size of a fist, insinuating that, yes, that the entry wound could have been from the front. And so then trying to figure out how the wound got into Kennedy's, the right side of his throat, mid-throat, and then out through his skull, without going again through the Texas governor that was right in front of him, I think is very tricky. And we have all kinds of theories out there, but I do speculate. I feel like that second bullet, I think that there was more than one shooter. I think that they were not going to allow him. I think that that many people who were on the detail that day did know that that was the day. And I think that it did come from the front. Not the second, maybe not the first shot, because like I say, when they're coming from behind that black sign, the Zapruder film, or the Zapruder film, which was not supposed to be taken. That was unexpected, though I don't know that that's true. You never can tell. But that the first shot, they were not going to end it until they did kill Kennedy that day. But I think that second shot that actually does kill Kennedy, whenever he's grabbing his throat as if he's choking, Jackie leans in and she reaches up to him. And then at that point is when he takes the shot. Mm-hmm. Supposedly, it would insinuate from the autopsy report, from the front and reaching across to the right of his throat and then exiting through the back of his head there, that the angle of it would have to come from within the car. Now, but I don't think, and I'm not insinuating at all, that it was the driver. I want to be really clear about that, even though I don't think that the driver was a fan of Kennedy, according to his son, Richard Greer.
I think it'd be hard to turn around and shoot Kennedy from the driver's seat without anyone else in the car noticing.
I do. I think so as well. So Then you have the rest of the vehicle. And I don't know. I think it's, I'm going to leave it there. But, because I don't want to, it's just that the shot comes from the front, but it doesn't shoot the man directly in front of him. The shot that kills Kennedy, the fatal shot that that causes the brain injury, I think has to come from the front, and it did not hit the governor, who was directly in front of him.
Well, he was off to the side. He was off to the side a little bit, and Kennedy was a bit higher because he was like in a lower seat. So I could see how you could, it wasn't a direct lineup, I suppose.
It also would have to hit at the mid of the throat at the Adam's apple. It's kind of a low angle. That's really difficult. So it'd have to exit out the back of the top of the rear of the right of the head of the skull. So the angle for that. Now that's only saying if the initial autopsy report that Hume burnt in his fireplace was accurate, because that's what's depicted in his first autopsy report, as he said under oath. That's what he first wrote down. After that, they changed all of it for the Warren Commission to where the wounds come from the back.
Right.
But if it's to be believed, because he was trying to support Perry, the other autopsy report. But hold on one second. I'm gonna mute for just a second, and then we'll hop off here.
I'll play some music. You know what?
Sorry.
You're
no,
fine.
I just think that what if Has anybody ever considered what if? But maybe even why can't we consider that Jackie did it?
From behind?
From the front.
All right. Well, okay.
She's left-handed.
I mean, she was there.
She was left-handed.
Okay. All right.
So Jackie was left-handed.
I like this theory.
Sitting right next to him. She would have had to have reached over to his right side, pull the trigger. She would then have to, immediately after that, she begins to exit the vehicle. She wore that suit for 24 hours after. She wrote a 7-page letter to Lyndon Johnson. She also wrote up, she did a recording for her children that very night concerning her father.
Now, you know what? I like this theory.
For Catherine Kennedy. I think that that's something that people have not considered. And you won't find it anywhere. But she leans in, and that's when his head gets blown off.
All right. You know what? I like it.
I don't like it. I don't personally like it. I don't personally like it.
No, you won't like it. Nobody will like it.
No, nobody will like it. Only Axel, because he's a sick bastard. Like that.
I'm leaving. No. I'm leaving right now.
You're the best. You're the best. Have a great night.
Have a great night.
Love you.
Thanks for the take.
Have a great
night. That's the Arcane Observer. Follow link in the description, troubleminds.org/friends, or just search the Arcane Observer and you'll find Jennifer. Please follow her on.
Axel, you did a great job.
Thank you.
Show.
Axel's the man. All right, so real quick on that. I don't like it because that means, right, like we have no friends. like our closest allies are not friends.
I don't know. There's something so convenient if that's what happened that I appreciate.
Yeah.
Who knows what was in Jackie O's mind? She was just like, "I'm going to kill my husband."
Yeah,
and these other people shooting at him somehow these other people shooting at him. Now's my moment.
yeah, exactly. Well, it had to be like incredibly planned. So here's a weird thing about that too. So I'm going to add to that conspiracy because, like I said, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying any truth. I'm not the truth guy here. But you know what I was reading before. So as you know me, I try and read as much as possible before we start these things because I need to know a little bit about something to say a little bit about something. And it turns out the wild thing is, I guess Jackie O had the dress with like the blood of Kennedy on it, and it got taken into the National Archives. And not only that, at the behest of the family, can only be exhibited to the public in like the year 4048. I don't know what it was. Like that's ridiculous. But I mean, it's literally like 50 years from now or 75 years from now. When I saw that, my eyes popped. I was like, why the fuck? Why would that be the thing? Seriously? Like this is literally like a moment in history that is incredibly important. And we're like, okay, it's been seized by the National Archives, but also at the behest of the family. We still can't see it from now. Look, now we're talking 60 years later, just about another 50 years on top. There's a lot of suspicious shit. Am I right?
What would you do? I mean, you know what? I'm not going to talk about your wife because I don't even to have a fantasy where there's harm to her. But what would you do where like someone that you were quite close to did get shot and you got their blood all over them? I mean, would you clean the suit up and just keep wearing it, or would you put it away?
Hell no.
Or would you?
I wouldn't give it to National Archive. That's for fucking sure. Like,
what
if
your friend was someone important, like a senator or something?
I don't care. I don't care. It's too personal to me. Like, it's not.
I just clean this. I just clean the soup and keep wearing it. Would be what I would do.
I didn't say no. Shut up. You would not. You would not. No, stop. You wouldn't. Seriously, you send the cleaners and like just clean the thing off and then just keep stop.
I mean, obviously, I'd be sad my friend was dead, but like it's a decent suit. I mean, I don't have cheap
Stop
suits.
it. If you have money, if you have like literally ample money to buy another one, why are you going to like wear that one? Stop it. That's pretty like magical in its own right. You're like, oh, I'm gonna just wear this suit where the the juxtaposition of the timelines matched in the super hyper like a populist, the super hyper populist moment of the entire world, where I have the blood of my partner. I'm gonna just like wash this and wear it. Stop it! You wouldn't do that shit. Stop it.
Well, that's the difference between me and you.
Okay, all right, I guess that's fine. Not gonna do it. In any case,
I have one last story to tell before we get out of here.
Yeah, roll it, bro. What you got?
All right. So a couple years ago, there's a friend of mine who lives in town, and his brother. I've said this in private chats, but I'll do it for the audience. His brother is a doctor in Dallas, Texas, and when he was first a doctor, he worked at the same Parkland hospital that Kennedy was taken to after the assassination. I don't think it's a hospital right now. I think they closed it down. Now the hospital's somewhere else. But I was out at a bar with my friend and his brother, and we weren't talking JFK conspiracy stuff, but somehow just JFK came up in the conversation. So we weren't having like a political conversation. But my friend's brother was like, hey, when I first started working at Parkland Hospital, there was a guy there that was an intern when Kennedy had gotten shot. And he told me that he was always so confused when he heard the reports afterwards, because it was so clear to him that the gun wounds were from the front when he saw the body. And this guy sort of told this to us unbidden. It was like, this is just a funny story from my past. So that's what I'll say about it.
Oops, muted myself. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, this is the thing, right? So we're all, many of us, most of us are sort of in the younger, like Gen X type of range, where we're, even a little younger than that. There's some individuals that listen to the show that were alive when JFK was killed. But even then they were like babies, like young, very young, like 10 years old, elementary school type of stuff. And so my point is that
we had a guy call in that was 10. We had an old man call in.
Yeah, that's Robert. He's not an old man. He's a good friend. Stop it. Don't demean people like that.
I like him too, but he's in his 70s.
In any case, look, my point in bringing that up is that we can't let this go. Like we can't let this go. I think what they want from us is to let these ideas go. That the possibility exists that the most nefarious stuff is happening out there at the behest of our government, and we should no longer talk about it, because this is a new era. And they want us to believe fully and completely that none of this stuff can ever happen again. And all you got to do, exactly, very well said. And all you got to do is look around the world at all the nonsense that's happening and all the BS and all the stuff. Well, they constantly lie to us. And that was my point. I just want to make that point, that the reason why JFK is still important and RFK Jr. is invoking this is because he doesn't trust the government. And because I don't trust the government, and Axel, I'm pretty sure, I don't want to speak for you. What do you think, my friend?
I think it's important so that people understand that, there was a deliberate attempt to quash sort of liberal reformism in the 60s through a series of assassinations, and that when the powers that be feel threatened again, they will probably do the same thing. I know that's not really a call to arms, because it's a bit like, yeah, if you stick your head up, you get shot. But I do think people should realize that there are powerful political actors within the United States that are not going to let something like democracy get in the way of what they're trying to do.
Amen. Well said. Well said, Axel. So put it on your calendar sometime in November if you're into it. We're gonna do this on the actual 60th anniversary and revisit.
I'll tell you my actual theory about what happened.
Okay, then. So there you go. Stay tuned. About 5-ish months from now, something to this effect. We'll do like an actual, before everybody else does it, we'll do it properly, because, like you said, everybody else, like you were saying, and you're right. There's a lot of like conspiracy theorist podcasts that are like, they're like reading from Wikipedia. You're like, this is super conspiracy. Yeah, you guys are the best. Like, okay, all right, double thumbs up, and keep those conspiracies from Wikipedia coming. In any case, Axel, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for, again, planning this. Thank you for preparing for this. Thank you for bringing your amazing
Can I just say two more? Can I say two more notes real quickly and then sign off?
Yeah, of course. Look, of course. Yeah, I was just trying to get you out of here, but if you got time, go right ahead.
I was just going to say, note number one is, guys, Wikipedia normally is kind of reliable, but you cannot trust it about parapolitics issues. There are editors that actively keep the official story alive. If you want to know about that, go to any of these things like the Kennedy assassination and go click on the talk tab in Wikipedia and see what people are yelling about, how they can't get it into the article. And then the second thing I want to say is that I quite like being here. Mike's always a pleasure. Liked all the callers. I loved hearing from APOC and Night Stalker and Daryl again, because I haven't talked to them in a while. And so that was a lot of fun.
You can't name callers because then you leave people out.
The other callers are people I didn't talk to a lot outside of this on Discord. So sorry, my friends. So it's the people I used to talk to on Discord I heard from again that I'm most appreciative of. I loved all the callers though.
Fair enough. That I stopped trying to do that because I would always inevitably leave somebody out. I appreciate it very much. Like I said, thanks for spending your time with us. Thanks for peeling it out, and thanks for bringing the breadth of knowledge that I don't have and that other people need to hear. This is why we talk to each other, and this is why it's continually important, and we're going to keep doing it. You're the best, brother. Please follow Axel. Do it. Please follow Axel Steele at Axel Steele on Twitter, AXLESTEELE on Twitter. He's all, don't follow me. I'm like, yes, follow him. Don't follow me.
Actually, I'll wait till the outro music to dip out. Go to the outro music.
All right, let's do it. Let's do the thing. All right, so this is the deal. Smashing the button. Let's do it. I'm gonna play it. Click the button so you can hear it. All right, so here's the deal, right? Like regarding me and these things, like I said, there's no truth to be found for me. Please don't come to me for truth. You guys know the drill. I do this night after night after night from so many different angles. I think the angles are the most important things here, and thinking differently and trying to heal our brains out of the propaganda aspect of what's happening around us, and that's what this has always been about. So just an FYI, you know, like if you're here this late, you already know that about me. You have to drop the constant disclaimers, because eventually some knucklehead out there is going to be like, oh, look what this guy said on this date, look what this guy said on this date, look what this guy said on this date, and they're going to do like the highlight, the low light reel. Like, fuck off. Honestly, fuck off. Hey, call me. By the way, check it out. In those terms, lovers, haters, whoever you are, call me. Look, I'm not hiding. I don't hide. Here's my face. Here's my phone number. If you got something to say, call me. If you don't,
tell them to join the Discord. Talk to us in the episode.
Join the Discord, troubledminds.org. Click the Discord on the top. And look, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just saying, look, I don't have the answers. And if you're trying to like frame me as the answers guy, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. In any case, so look, if you want to help, please follow in all the places. You got to do the thing. troubledminds.org/friends. This is not just me. As you've noticed, like my great friend here, Axel, tonight, slaying it with us, just taking all the punches about, hey, this is the real stuff. This is the DM stuff. This is the magic stuff. And he's just like taking all the punches because he's amazing. Follow all our friends, please, because this show's not just about me. It's about you. It's about us. It's about all of the friends involved. And you're invited to be on the show. troubledmindsradio@gmail. Send me an email. We'll put you on the show. Again, like, just be able to talk. You can't just show up and be like 3 words and then silent and expect me to carry. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, you know. Here's the deal. If you want to help, other than that, if you want to help Troubled Minds specifically, you want to spend some scratch, sub up on Rockfin, Rumble. Rockfin, Rumble. What is it? Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, in that order. Shout out to Robert for the generous tip over on Rockfin. Thank you for that tonight. If you like the merch, go to troubledfans.com. You will not find me in a hot tub. You'll find all the hottest Troubled Minds merch. But then also, look, if you don't want to spend money, that's totally cool. Or don't have money to spend, that's completely, totally cool. This is not about that. I'm not trying to, like milk people. This is not like Joel Osteen. This is just conversations. Spread the word. Let people know there's a conversation happening that is not typical. And that's wherein my... how do I say it? I don't know how to say it. We're at the end. I burned my brain. There you go.
Good night, everybody.
There you go. There, see, Axel's got it right. Therein is where my muse lies. Spread the word. This is the thing. Listen on the podcast feed. You can find it, of course, Spotify, iTunes, where you get your podcast. Please follow our good friend there. As he keeps telling you, don't follow me on Twitter at Axel Steele, just like it sounds. Steele with an E on the end. All right. As we finish, it goes exactly like this. Thank you for all the amazing calls. Thanks for the amazing thoughts and the amazing chat. All the amazing people that listen on the podcast feed. Like I said, you make my world go round. I see you there. Thank you so much. As we finish, it goes exactly like this. Sorry, Jay Winch. We're done, bro. It's been like 3.5 hours. I got to eat. We'll catch you next time. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.